After being reincarnated as a tomb, the very first thing you did was spend yin energy to create a two-winged centipede. This was simply because upon waking up, you realized you were actually in a world of tomb raiders. Not only had you become a literal tomb, but you were also doomed to be constantly ransacked by grave robbers. And you see, yin energy can only be generated through dark artifacts, killing intruders, or having a prime feng shui location. Once your sacred ground is destroyed and your dark artifacts stolen, you'll never stand a chance again. So, to protect your own body, you ordered the two-winged centipede to lie in ambush on the wall. Kill them as they come, one by one. The massive creature immediately sprang into action. Its countless legs scuttled up the stone, and it obediently flattened itself against the wall. Its massive, venomous mandibles inched closer to the noises coming from above. Damn it, this tomb is pretty damn small. And the dirt is tough as hell. Well, we're finally in. A man poked his head into the tomb, glancing around in every direction. Hey, it's all clear, place is tiny as hell. Come on down. Hearing this, another head popped through the opening above, scanned the area for a second, and then dropped down. He then waved the next guy in. As more and more people piled on top of your coffin lid, even though you knew you didn't have lungs to breathe anymore, you still felt incredibly suffocated. As if sensing your frustration, the two-winged centipede subtly twitched its venomous mandibles, letting out an almost silent rustle. Not yet, you whispered in your mind. The obedient creature immediately fell dead silent, melting right back into the pitch-black shadows. Tisk, why do I get a weird feeling about this place? Suddenly, the voice of that guy, old Mew, echoed from outside the tunnel. He was the last one left up there. The men already inside glanced around for a second, and two of them hopped off the coffin lid, finally clearing out a little spot for old Mew to land. What's so weird about it? The tomb was just way too cramped. You honestly thought that, being this close, the two-winged centipede was bound to be spotted, but it was incredibly smart. It flattened its body entirely, making itself look exactly like a jagged rock stuck to the wall. One of the young guys who jumped down even brushed his knee right against its armored shell, totally clueless. But old Mew was still hesitating. The younger guys were starting to lose their patience. Come on, old Mew, I'm just saying, you've been dragging your feet this whole trip. Same thing happened the last few times. We're part of the Shiion sect now. Who gives a damn about old rules? Just get in here and let's get it done. Yeah, man, what are you so scared of? This place doesn't even have a single trap or formation. It's obviously just some abandoned dirt grave. The Shiion sect. Yeah, they definitely weren't the type to play by the rules. After all their nagging, old Mew finally coughed twice. Fine, just back up a bit, you brats. I'm coming down. With that said, a massive thud slammed onto the top of the coffin. You swore that even though your coffin lid was made of solid stone, it nearly cracked under the weight. From your top-down view, old Mew looked short, but the guy was pure muscle. He was probably the deadliest one of the whole bunch, but now that everyone was finally inside, it was the perfect time to strike. Go, kill the last one who dropped in. The two-winged centipede's countless little legs instantly sprang into a furious crawl. Old Mew didn't suspect a thing. Fumbling around in his bag for a flashlight, he grumbled, damn. It's freezing down here, why do I feel? Thud, old Mew just collapsed out of nowhere. Old Mew? In an instant, absolute panic broke out. Only then did the others frantically remember to flick on their flashlights. Several frantic beams of light snapped onto old Mew's body. Right there, on his neck, was a massive bite mark, looking exactly like the work of some gigantic insect. The skin around it was already turning a deep, sickly purple. It's poison. Holy shit, old Mew just got poisoned to death. Run for it, someone screamed at the top of their lungs. But just as they whipped their heads around, they came face to face with the two-winged centipede. The monster reared up its upper body, flaring the wings on its back. Even though those wings couldn't actually fly, they were more than enough to scare the men completely out of their wits. The tunnel, get back up the tunnel. Move your asses, you guys in front, hurry the hell up. Don't block the way. Everyone was absolutely terrified. The few guys closest to the centipede's jaws were literally scrambling on their hands and knees. In the sheer chaos, they all piled toward the escape tunnel, but it was completely useless. Not a single one of them remembered the lighters, the crude explosives, or even the loaded guns in their pockets. All they could think about was running for their lives. The centipede's massive head completely blocked out the moonlight shining down from the tunnel. Rearing its head high, it let out a sick, gleeful hiss. Its legs gripped the walls, coiling its body tight, before its giant venomous fangs lunged straight into the frantic crowd. Oh god, please, spare me. I swear I'll follow the rules next time. Die, you freak, I'll bash your brains in. No, no, stay away from me, somebody help me. Begging, thrashing, blood-curdling screams. The sounds echoed endlessly in the dark. You stared at the glowing yin energy reward screen popping up right in front of your eyes, an endless wave of joy washing over you. Killed 1 novice Shiion raider. Reward: 1000 yin energy points. In just a matter of minutes, that exact same notification flashed 6 separate times. And just like that, your yin energy total shot up to 6000. Suddenly, a pale green system message popped up. Experience points sufficient. You may spend 2000 yin energy points to evolve the 2-winged centipede into a 4-winged centipede. Do you wish to confirm? You quickly scanned the bright red text that read 4-winged centipede. Immediately, a system note expanded below it. 4-winged centipede. Length: 10 meters. Mid to low tier venomous creature. Lethality: decent. Weakness: fire. An upgraded version of the 2-winged centipede. While its overall size does not increase drastically, its outer exoskeleton is heavily fortified, and its wing structure is significantly improved. Added quite a bit of weight, mastered the skill of flight, and boasts greater maneuverability compared to the previous level. Of course, the prerequisite is that your tomb is big enough. You think about your tiny 3 square meter tomb and feel the system's mockery. At this moment, the 2-winged centipede has already taken care of the last tomb raider. It even takes a moment to coil around the robber's tunnel, using its claws and fangs to gather the surrounding dirt and block the hole. It sprawls over the lid of your coffin, acting as obediently as a pet waiting for a reward. How could anyone refuse this? You make your choice without hesitation. The next second, the centipede in the bird's eye view lets out a series of joyful hisses. Some kind of black substance gathers toward it, sticking to its body. And gradually materializing, about 1 or 2 minutes later, a creature twice its previous size, with 2 pairs of wings roaring with wind on its back. The 4-winged centipede appears in the tomb. If it weren't for this cramped space hindering its movements, it would absolutely look even more awe-inspiring. Detected that the host now possesses a creature of lower tier or above. Set it as a tomb guardian beast? A tomb guardian beast. A tomb guardian beast is bound to the tomb itself. As long as the tomb remains, the guardian beast will never die. Right now, this centipede is your absolute trump card. Naturally, you can't just let it die an easy death. Yes, instantly, a faint glimmer seems to flash around the 4-winged centipede's icon, but it quickly sinks into its body and vanishes. The 4-winged centipede seems to sense something. It lies flat against the coffin, letting out a cheerful trill. If you weren't completely paralyzed right now, you would really want to sit up and pat its head. After all these actions, you can finally breathe a sigh of relief. Comfort only breeds danger. Now is not the time to relax. 6 have died, which means 6 more will inevitably come. I know that, you annoying system. I remember. That gang called themselves the Shiion sect. The system stops responding. You scoff softly. Earlier, those guys also mentioned a chief. In your memory, the only chief related to the Shiion sect is none other than Chen Yulu. Well, that is a massive problem. Sensing your irritation, the 4-winged centipede shifts its body slightly. But due to the tiny space, its movements are clearly restricted. This place really is way too small. You bring up the shop interface once again. Under the Tomb Quality tab, you find an upgrade option. Upgrade Tomb to Deserted Grave. Cost: 600 yin energy points. Upgrade now? First time upgrade yields massive benefits. Area size quadruples. Tomb walls reinforced. A beginner's concealment barrier is added around the main burial chamber. The ultimate choice for beginners. Perfectly suited for the current situation. Or rather, aside from this, there aren't any other options anyway. The shop does have a few discounted items. Among them are setups like the 7-star decoy coffins, which you definitely fancy. But they are either locked or way out of your budget. Forget it, pull yourself together. Stick to the reliable upgrade. Yes, instantly, on the bird's eye view, the tomb's area expands drastically. Even you yourself feel a lot more refreshed. Watching the centipede finally stretch out, you start planning your next move. You currently need more stable yin energy points. It is advised to plant crops like the human-faced willow for a steady harvest. This was your greatest wish when you were alive, right? Getting paid just by lying down. Do you seriously think I want to be lying down right now? You mutter speechlessly. This system is so dramatic, but it's always useful when it counts. You click on the human-faced willow, yin energy form. The icon for this thing looks no different from a normal willow tree, except for the human face on its trunk. Human-faced willow. One human-faced willow produces 10 yin energy points daily. Current planting limit, 10. Description: an absolute must-have for the early game. Only by purchasing this can you truly get on track. What a steal! 350 yin energy points per tree. With 3,600 yin energy points left, you can easily max out the quantity. The familiar white light and eerie wind surge into the ground beside the coffin once again. Visibly, several tender sprouts pop up from the soil. The 4-winged centipede shows no curiosity toward the new sprouts around it, yet instinctively chooses to avoid them. Now, all you can do is wait, and keep a close eye on these precious little things. I'll rest up first, perhaps because you were attacked right after waking up, you are exceptionally exhausted right now. Although you are reluctant, the four-winged centipede simply coils silently around the coffin, guarding you closely. So reliable, you praise it in your heart, and fall into a peaceful slumber. Waking and sleeping, several months pass by just like that. During these months, you discover that although you no longer need to sleep on purpose, resting appropriately keeps your mind sharp, and helps your soul adapt to this world much better. Today is a massive day. You open your stat panel. In the bird's eye view of the tomb, the human-faced willows are already knee-high. The four-winged centipede has undergone several more upgrades compared to months ago, making it incredibly formidable. The chamber is also crawling with many newly purchased corpse beetles, each the size of a fist. But your mind isn't on them right now. You look over your various stats. The yin energy point column, after all the spending and earning over this period, has reached 3,500. You open the shop again, and skillfully locate the target you've been craving for so long. Spend 2,000 yin energy points to upgrade host panel to normal zombie? Excitement surges in your heart. 3 months, you've finally saved enough yin energy points to let yourself truly move. Yes, the chilling wind rises once more. Bits of yin energy flow into your body. You feel an icy sensation enveloping you, like a gentle spring rain nourishing your entire being. As this sensation fades away, you try moving your fingers. Finally, I can finally get up. He heard the terribly hoarse sound coming from his own throat, but he was absolutely thrilled. Hearing his voice, Four Wings thoughtfully pushed the heavy stone coffin lid open for him. The moment he sat up, you feel an indescribable rush of relief. Now, this truly counts as a second chance at life. Stepping out of the coffin, surrounded by four wings and the corpse bugs, you slowly get used to your stiff, freezing body. While patrolling the tomb, now, seeing everything with your own eyes, the stone walls, the saplings, the giant bugs, it is way more thrilling than just looking at a bird's eye map. But amidst the excitement, he also realizes that even though this place has been expanded a few times, it is still way too small. Ding! Congratulations, host, your permissions have been upgraded. New feature unlocked. Relocation. Would you like to scan and give it a try? After months of getting used to it, you are completely unfazed by the system suddenly popping up to jump scare you. He calmly taps, yes. Scanning. Discovered a grade 2 feng shui treasure site. Would you like to relocate? Your movements completely freeze. Your eyes widen in shock. This is a grade 2 feng shui treasure site. Looking at his current turf, it doesn't even have a rank. His gaze shifts to the yes option. Right below it, a prompt immediately pops up. Minus 1,500 yin energy points. The price is actually pretty fair. But still, you hesitate for a second. If it really is a feng shui treasure site, then those ancient feng shui masters, or even the demons and monsters, definitely wouldn't let it slip by. What if he goes there and bumps into some big shot you can't mess with? Or gets targeted by even stronger tomb raiders? Well, risk and reward always go hand in hand. Taking this gamble right now, who knows if it will bring good luck or a total disaster. Meanwhile, Four Wings is still super excited. This is actually its first time seeing you in the flesh. Seeing you suddenly stop moving, it nudges his hand with its head in confusion. Feeling the gentle touch on your fingertips, you finally snap back to reality. He takes a look at the surrounding setup. Sure, it is not insanely strong, but it is more than enough to defend itself. Instead of worrying about all that, it is better to just stay on his toes and adapt. Since he got a second chance at life, he might as well live it up and make it spectacular. In his past life, he was just a miserable corporate slave right up until the day he died. Hustling in society, the deepest lesson he ever learned was this: the cowards starve to death, while the bold feast until they burst. Besides, he is finally seeing something genuinely interesting. He doesn't even realize it, but an eager, anticipating smile has already crept onto his face. Yes, the moment you confirm the option, you feel a faint tremor rumbling through the tomb's floor, but it quickly fades away. Right after, the system prompt pops up right in front of his eyes again. Tomb relocation successful. Deducting 1,500 yin energy points. Tomb relocation cooldown time remaining, 30 days. Your heart skips a beat. Wow, that was incredibly fast. Opening the bird's eye map once again. Thanks to the recent upgrade, a little extra window has popped up right next to it, showing a beautiful, traditional ink wash style map. It marks the current location of your tomb in bright red, and just a short distance away, there is a grayed out marker. That must be the old site of his tomb. Ding! Congratulations, host, for successfully securing the Azure Dragon pausing brush terrain. Trade is permanently active. The system suddenly fires off a barrage of massive, banner-like congratulatory messages. Yin energy generation rate increased by 100%, plus 50,000 yin energy points. This is your housewarming gift, and the sweet reward for taking such a big risk. Congratulations on climbing another step up the ladder. You break into a huge grin. Setting aside whether the gamble paid off or not, with all these insane buffs and rewards, he just struck it rich. Riding high on this fantastic mood, you decide to head out and explore the area outside the tomb. One of the absolute best things about actually being able to move your body is that you don't have to rely on those boring blueprints anymore. As the master of the tomb, the entire place naturally responds to his very thoughts. The tomb doors slide open on their own, and he steps right through the heavy, massive gates carved from solid stone slabs. He heads outside. The exit opens up right into a lush valley. As you walk out, it just so happens to be nighttime, with a bright, glowing moon and a scattering of faint stars. Bathed in the moonlight, you start wandering around barefoot. Honestly, if anyone were to bump into him right now, they would probably be scared to death. A mangled, stiff zombie, barely hanging onto a few scraps of rotting flesh, with the stark white bones almost entirely exposed underneath. And trailing right behind him is a massive creature, with swarms of fist-sized corpse bugs buzzing around and scattering all over the valley. But you don't care about any of that. He quickly notices that the whole area is shrouded in a glowing, colorful mist. There are towering mountains, flowing rivers, and absolutely breathtaking scenery. It is a million times better than that dump he used to be in. Right now, gazing out over his brand new territory, he feels nothing but pure satisfaction. And Four Wings is feeling the exact same way. It has been cooped up inside the tomb this whole time. It has nothing to do with the size of the place. It is just like how you need to walk a dog regularly. Four Wings has been itching to come out and play for quite a while now. Now that it is finally out, it gets to run wild and completely exhaust itself. It isn't until it sees you turning around, ready to head back, that it finally, reluctantly, follows along. However, after taking just a few steps back toward the tomb's entrance, you suddenly freeze in your tracks. Who is there? No one answers. You stay perfectly still, your sharp gaze quickly scanning the dark surroundings. Then, he spots a tail that didn't quite manage to hide in time, stealthily slithering away through the rustling leaves. A snake. You slowly turn around, locking your eyes precisely on a specific spot in the bushes. Right now, being a zombie himself, he can easily sense the life force of living creatures. Even though it is not as bright as a human's aura, there is absolutely no doubt that the creature is hiding right there in the brush. It looks like it has been lying in ambush for quite some time now. Your piercing gaze never leaves the bushes. He doesn't doubt for a second that this thing is going to launch an attack in the very next second. Judging from its intense aura, this is a massive beast. The tense standoff lasts for just a brief moment, before the creature in the bushes finally loses its patience and lunges out. The moment it reveals itself, it looks incredibly aggressive and ready to kill. Or rather, a massive serpent with an overwhelming, terrifying presence, making people instantly and uncontrollably. Think of certain mythical creatures. Its green scales gleamed brilliantly, its massive body coiled tightly, and terrifying fangs were bared within its giant jaws. A pair of golden eyes, cold and ferocious, locked onto you. That was the gaze of a predator looking at its prey. But who was the real prey here? You sneered inwardly. Then, with just a flicker of your thoughts, you coldly spat out a few words. Four-winged centipede, tear it apart. When it came to fighting, you weren't scared in the slightest right now. The giant green python across from you looked to be over 10 meters long, evenly matched with the four-winged centipede. However, the centipede's chitinous exoskeleton had already been reinforced multiple times. Its venomous mandibles had been upgraded over and over, capable of snapping half a tree trunk in a single bite. In comparison, that giant python, which couldn't even shake off a corpse beetle just now, only had its sheer size going for it. You stood on the sidelines watching the show, not forgetting to add a couple of instructions. Keep the noise down, and don't leave too much of a mess. The four-winged centipede let out a low, dense clicking sound, signaling that it understood perfectly. Its attacks grew even more ruthless. The two massive beasts brawled and twisted together, with the four-winged centipede clearly holding the upper hand. In just a few moments, it had already clamped its jaws right onto the python's critical weak spot. Seeing that just a bit more force would snap it in two, hovering right between life and death, the giant python suddenly gave up struggling. It lowered its massive head in your direction. Sensing there was more to this, you said softly, "Hold on a second." The four-winged centipede instantly behaved itself. Like a pet begging for praise, it turned and tossed the giant python right in front of you. Oh, so you actually have a brain in there, you realized. Sure enough, the giant beast could understand human speech. It flattened its massive body against the ground, keeping only its head lowered right in front of you, nodding up and down. It was probably begging for mercy. A system prompt appeared. Giant green-scaled python is available for taming. Do you want to tame it and set it as a tomb guardian beast? The words, giant green scaled python, were highlighted in red, just like the two-winged centipede back then. You immediately clicked into it. Giant green scaled python, 13 meters long, kills by constriction, massive body with powerful muscles, lacks other attribute bonuses, but has no obvious weaknesses, balanced stats, but low chance of successful evolution. Combat potential is evaluated based on the creature's strength post-evolution. Please do not blame the system for misleading you if your evolution attempt fails. Even though those last few lines looked incredibly suspicious no matter how you read them, implying evolution was difficult and risky. You definitely weren't the type of guy to pass up a massive reward just because of a little risk. Otherwise, how the hell would you have secured a grade 2 feng shui treasure land? You hit tame. The prompt read, you may name your new creature. Its name? You didn't think too hard about it. Glancing at its entirely green body, you casually blurted out, Little Green. The system interface dissolved into specks of glowing light that seeped right into Little Green's body. Answering your call just now, it proudly raised the front of its body, yet specifically bowed its head down low, almost like it was giving you a respectful bow. By now, the sky was gradually starting to brighten. You did a quick sweep of your surroundings. Thank God, the fight was over in a flash, and you had all been careful enough along the way to avoid leaving any obvious tracks. It was about time to head back. Slipping back into the pitch-black tomb, the last thing you wanted right now was to crawl back into that coffin. Today it was a giant green python, but what kind of freakish monster would show up next time? If you wanted to have better odds in situations like this, upgrading the four-winged centipede one more time was absolutely necessary. And this was the perfect opportunity. Do you want to spend 5,000 yin energy points to evolve the four-winged centipede into a six-winged centipede? You confirmed, yes, just like its previous evolutions. Something even thicker and murkier than the darkness itself began to emerge from the shadows of the tomb. The shadowy substance latched onto the centipede, wrapping around it layer after thick layer. The four-winged centipede began to morph. Its body grew increasingly fierce and savage, an extra pair of wings sprouted from its back, and its sleek exoskeleton turned a glossy, pitch-black color. Along with it appeared a faintly glowing inner core. Everything seemed to materialize right out of thin air, forming into a solid reality. In merely a matter of seconds, from the moment the inner core appeared to the second it merged into the creature's body, it had completely transformed from a four-winged beast into a terrifying six-winged centipede. Rustle, rustle. Right after its evolution, the six-winged centipede let out a brisk, happy hiss, affectionately slithering up right beside you. It coiled its massive body around you, but tried its absolute best to maintain a respectful distance so it wouldn't annoy you. It was being so cautious, yet so incredibly obedient. Eventually, perhaps realizing its terrifying size really wasn't suited for acting cute, it settled for just carefully and gently nudging its huge head against your cheek. The wings on its back fluttered lightly, radiating pure joy. You let out a soft chuckle, and affectionately patted its head. Off to the side, the giant green python looked at the six-winged centipede, then looked back at you. It blinked its huge eyes open and shut, over and over again, as if seriously doubting whether it was stuck in a crazy dream. You shot it a quick glance, and as a small gesture of comfort, reached over to pet its head too. Work hard for me, and you'll get your own rewards too. Hearing this, the giant green python froze for a second. Then, as if suddenly remembering something important, it whipped around and suddenly slithered off, drilling into a dark corner of the tomb. An azure dragon dipping its pen, feng shui layout, a giant green python, and a deep, ancient mountain forest. Watching it leave, it suddenly clicked for you. You had a nagging feeling that you'd read descriptions exactly like this somewhere before. Damn, this place feels an awful lot like the tomb of that sinister old bastard, King Shiion. Your heart leapt with sudden excitement at the thought. If this really was King Shion's tomb, then you had completely hit the jackpot. King Shion's tomb held the legendary Muchen bead. That was the god-tier artifact the Mountain Movers sect went absolutely insane trying to find. It was just a pity that the Muchen bead in the system store not only cost a staggering 2 million yin energy points, but you didn't even meet the basic requirements to unlock it yet. Okay, I'm getting way ahead of myself here. Your rational mind quickly snapped you back to reality. The most important thing right now was to keep a level head. Nothing was set in stone yet. Even though you were definitely going to rob this neighbor's grave sooner or later, now wasn't the time. The absolute top priority was to grind and build up your strength. Without missing a beat, you pulled up the system store interface. By now, the planting limit for human-faced willows in the tomb had increased to 30 trees. Max it out. I need to plant every single one. With a grand wave of your hand, alongside the self-sustaining human-faced willows, you've also instantly summoned hundreds of corpse beetles for defense. You also took the chance to expand the tomb's size, just so the six-winged beast has enough room to fly around for fun. Suddenly, your original 50,000 yin energy points instantly dropped to just over 20,000. But you have absolutely no intention of stopping this crazy shopping spree just yet. You scan the shop once more. Flipping to the Constitution page, there's only one body type you can afford right now. Would you like to spend 20,000 yin energy points to unlock the Drought Demon Basic Constitution? 20,000. And that's just for the basic level. If you want to upgrade it later, it's going to cost even more yin energy. Still, you made this decision after some serious thought. Right now, your biggest assets are the tomb guarding beasts, but they can't be by your side 24/7. Upgrading your own strength is an absolute must. The Drought Demon Constitution is one of the ultimate evolution paths for a zombie. It's a pretty pricey route in the shop, but right now, it suits you perfectly. As the ancient texts say, the Drought Demon brings devastation, burning like a blazing fire. Wherever it emerges, it curses the land with 10,000 miles of drought. That was the ancients' most direct understanding of the monster. But right now, what you're looking at is the much grander evolution path of this constitution. Physical enhancement, moving as swift as the wind, and an absolutely indestructible body. A mere wave of your hand triggers a drought, and once it evolves again, the description literally says it's a body capable of fighting dragons. Compared to all that, 20,000 yin energy points is just a tiny little investment. As the light from the shop panel sinks into your body, you look down at your hands. Originally, the skin on your hands was practically rotting off the bone. It used to expose chunks of bone and muscle, but after the upgrade, it looks so much better, and the surrounding muscles have completely filled out. You can clearly feel a brand new surge of energy coursing through your body right now. It's just a bit unpredictable and hard to control at the moment. You'll probably need to keep upgrading it to unleash its full potential. And then, there's the raw power and speed, fists that can shatter boulders, and movement as fast as a gale. To test it out, you absolutely tear through the tomb for a bit, growing more and more satisfied with the results. About 15 minutes later, you finally burn off all the boredom built up from a 2-month-long slumber. Just as you pull up the shop menu, ready to blow the last few thousand yin energy points, the giant green-scaled python suddenly slithers back, violently slamming a body onto the ground. You stare blankly at the grotesque thing in front of you, a twisted monstrosity that looks half bug, half infant. Killing one cursed baby grants 1,000 yin energy points. Your tomb-guarding beast, the giant green-scaled python, has slain a cursed baby. Congratulations to the player for earning 1,000 yin energy points. Your face is instantly covered in question marks. Wait, seriously? I get free points just like that? And then, it completely clicks. Ah, so that's how it is. This place really is King Shiion's tomb, and that little traitor, the giant python, actually knows exactly where the cursed babies are hiding. According to the lore in your memories, these cursed babies need to be triggered by the scent of the living, or directly awakened by King Shion himself. But right now, you're literally a walking zombie. You don't have an ounce of living breath on you. Marching straight in there would be like shooting fish in a barrel. Overjoyed, a deeply satisfied grin spreads across your face. Not bad, Xiao Qing. Beautifully done. Even though it was just given that nickname, thanks to the system's influence, the giant python doesn't resist the name Xiao Qing at all. It even playfully wraps the tip of its tail around your calf, practically acting spoiled. You tap open Xiao Qing's status page and initiate a massive upgrade, dumping your remaining 2,000 yin energy points entirely on it. Xiao Qing's evolution process is vastly different from the six-winged centipedes. Instead of dark, shadowy matter clinging to its body, pure white specks of light wash over it, rolling across its scales like flickering flames. It looks exactly like it's shedding its skin. Once the upgrade is complete, even though Xiao Qing doesn't have facial expressions, you can vividly feel its absolute sheer joy. Alright, now take us to the rest of those cursed babies. Xiao Qing is practically vibrating with excitement right now, violently whipping its tail as it darts toward a dark corner. You shoot a quick glance at the six-winged centipede and the corpse beetles nearby. They immediately mobilize into a massive, marching army. Following right behind Xiao Qing, you quickly realize something. There's actually a hidden shortcut right inside your own tomb. One that leads directly to the slumbering grounds of these cursed babies. Curled up in tight balls, they are completely defenseless, just a pathetic, tragic bunch of creatures anyway. Might as well slaughter them all right now. At least they'll contribute some yin energy points. With a single, murderous thought from you, the massive army of tomb-guarding beasts, spearheaded by the giant python, violently swarms forward. Your tomb-guarding beast, the six-winged centipede, has slain a cursed baby. Congratulations to the host for earning 1,000 yin energy points. Watching the endless stream of system notifications popping up in front of you, a wicked smirk uncontrollably creeps onto your face. Meanwhile, on the other side, Chen Yulu sits directly across from Shirley Yang. Shirley locks her piercing gaze onto him, speaking clearly, word by word. Her voice is absolutely resolute. I am going to find the Muchin bead, even if it means going blind, just like you. Hearing this, Chen Yulu suddenly freezes. He slowly stands up, swaying slightly on his feet. Do you really want to see my blinded eyes? The trio is totally caught off guard. For a moment, dead silence fills the room as they exchange bewildered glances. Without waiting for an answer, Chen Yulu reaches up and rips off his dark sunglasses. When his eyelids peel open, there are absolutely no eyeballs inside. The previously fierce and aggressive Shirley Yang gasps in sheer horror, completely stunned into silence. Staring deeply at Chen Yulu, she realizes the situation is far more horrific than she ever imagined. Getting the exact shocked reaction he wanted, Chen Yulu calmly slips his sunglasses back on. He casually strolls back to his seat and sits down. Hu Bai clicks his tongue, clearly still refusing to give up. Then, can you at least come with us? I mean, you lost your eyes in that place back then, so you must know. Chen Yulu completely ignores him. He just turns his back, not uttering a single word. It's a blatant dismissal. Left with no other choice, Hu Bai and the others sigh in defeat and get ready to leave. But, right as they pull open the door, a burly man violently bursts in from the outside. The Iron Triangle exchange sharp looks, instantly stopping in their tracks by the doorway. They watch intently as the man rushes straight over to Chen Yulu, leans in close, and whispers urgently, "Boss. A few of our brothers. They've gone missing over by King Shion's tomb." What? Chen Yulu can barely believe his own ears, his entire body stiffening in absolute shock. How could anyone possibly dare to go to that hellhole right now? The man looked a bit ashamed, but still tried his best to explain. The guys down below didn't know about what happened before. They originally just went down to score a little extra on the side. And got killed out of nowhere. Chen Yulu fell silent for a moment. Finally, he turned around, his face looking pretty grim. Hu Bai had caught a few words of their conversation just now, and already had a rough guess of what was going on. So, how about it? Can you make a trip to King Shion's tomb with us? Chen Yulu didn't move. The expression on his face kept shifting, from hesitation to nostalgia and regret. Back then, his brothers from the Shiion faction had suffered heavy casualties for his sake. Now, he couldn't just sit back and do nothing. Ultimately, he gave a heavy nod. On the other side, the corridor that was just crawling with demonic babies was now left with nothing but corpses scattered all over the floor. The foul, reeking liquid oozing from the corpses was incredibly disgusting. You felt somewhat lucky that you were a zombie now and couldn't smell a thing. As the very last demonic baby was swarmed and killed by a pack of corpse beetles. A notification popped up right before your eyes once again. Yin energy has successfully surpassed 100,000. System auto upgrading. Special attribute unlocked. Terrain. A wave of joy hit you. This terrain category was also in the shop, essentially serving as an upgraded version of standard traps. Things like the natural toxic mist in King Shion's tomb, or phantom crypts. They all belong to the terrain category. But before you even had time to open the shop, another notification rushed to the front. Detected unlockable terrain nearby, rainbow toxic mist. Would you like to spend 20,000 yin energy to absorb it? You blinked and then let out a laugh. Talk about speak of the devil. You'd been eyeing the toxic mist of King Shion's tomb for a long time now. Just this one single hurdle had blocked who knows how many mastered tomb raiders. Even Chen Yulu himself crashed and burned on this very obstacle back in the day. Even though, over the past few months, aside from the initial tomb raiding crisis, you hadn't run into any real difficulties, but you knew very well that this world would absolutely never give anyone the chance to just sit back and live a peaceful life. This whole tomb raiding business was just like playing a game of chess. The rainbow toxic mist was simply the first thing the tomb raiders encountered. In an endgame filled with countless ambushes. But no matter how many ambushes there were, an endgame was still just an endgame. Eventually, someone would figure out a way to beat it. And if you wanted to ramp up the deadliness of that endgame, you had to prepare attacks from both the shadows and the light. Naturally, terrain was absolutely essential. However, you didn't immediately grab this free lunch that just dropped from the sky. Instead, you glanced at the pets waiting quietly beside you. Please rest assured, terrain will not inflict any damage upon the tomb guardian beasts. Since we're all on the same team, why hurt our own? Well then, what was there left to hesitate about? The exact second you made your choice in your mind, a bird's eye view map of the tomb popped up simultaneously. You watched as a violent gust of wind, completely wrapped in thick mist, materialized right inside the map. Circling around, dispersing. In just a matter of moments, a dense, heavy fog surged into existence all around the tomb. This was clearly the legendary toxic mist from King Shion's tomb. Seeing this kind of efficiency made you curl up the corners of your mouth into a smile. You just added another massive trump card to your hand. Along with the appearance of the mist, an extra line of description popped up under the terrain row on your interface. Rainbow toxic mist, attributes, poison, quality, high tier, large area of effect, indiscriminate, armor-piercing damage, simple but highly effective, requires a certain level of poison resistance to even have a chance of breaking through. An enemy that simply cannot be blocked. The most annoying enemies of all are the wind and the air itself. And the mist. Watching such a priceless treasure fall right into your pocket, you felt incredibly satisfied. Closing the interface panel in front of you, you looked up, only to realize that at some point, the entire surrounding area had been completely swallowed up by a thick, crimson mist. This red mist, it's the Huo clan's immortal worm. As if directly confirming your guess, a deep, guttural roar echoed out from within the crimson fog. The sheer presence of it was massive. You shot a quick glance at the six-winged centipede beside you. It instantly understood the assignment, violently flapping its wings. A massive chunk of the surrounding red mist was blown completely away, revealing a gigantic, terrifying golden mask staring dead at you. It was a golden mask twisted into an absolutely hideous expression. Right in the center was one massive eyeball, frantically darting and rolling around. The bottom half of the mask opened into the vile, fleshy mouthparts of a giant worm, while its entire body was clad in heavy, bronze dragon-scale armor. The armor was covered in thick green patina. Right beneath it lay a shell as red as fresh blood, and thick red mist was actively seeping out from between the gaps. Throw in those horrific claws, each one as thick as a grown man's leg, which gave it that lightning-fast mobility from just a moment ago. The immortal worm's sheer size was easily on par with the green-scaled giant python. It reared its massive body up high, making a blatant show of force. It had clearly marked you as an intruder, but you didn't feel a single ounce of fear. Instead, you just let out a light chuckle, dropping all that heavy cash earlier to upgrade both yourself and your tomb. Guardian Beasts was totally the right move. Alright then, Huo's immortal worm, since you've decided to deliver yourself right to my front door, then I won't hold back. While things over here were a hair's breadth away from an explosive battle, the other side was considerably more peaceful. Or, to put it another way, it was so peaceful it was almost completely unacceptable. Hu Bai and his entire crew were standing right inside that cramped little tomb you used to occupy. They swept their flashlights all over the place, but no matter how hard they looked, the only things surrounding them were damp, gloomy dirt walls, and 6 horribly mangled corpses. Fatty had already done a full lap and strolled back to the center of the tomb. He couldn't help but ask, "You gotta be kidding me, right? Just this? This absolute dump was able to stop the men from the Shiion faction? I mean, you gotta realize, their guys haven't even all made it down here yet. And they've already packed up whatever little space is inside this tomb. There's nothing but mud on top of more mud around here. There ain't even a single coffin. This doesn't look like a damn tomb at all." Hu Bai found it completely unbelievable as well. He didn't answer, simply turning his gaze over to Chen Yulu. That same man who had reported to Chen Yulu earlier had guided him all the way down from above, leading him right up to the corpses. Chen Yulu squatted down, turning the dead bodies over to inspect them. He gave his nose a slight twitch. These tracks. Chen Yulu's face instantly went pale. With his back still turned to Hu Bai, his body stiffened slightly. What flashed through his mind was the incident at Pingshan from back then. The only thing that could leave these marks and have such a massive size. Even though it's a bit smaller than that 6-winged centipede from before, it's still extremely tough to deal with. It's just that, how could that thing appear in this tiny little cave? Could there actually be a nest of those creatures nearby? Hu Bai and the others noticed Chen Yulu acting strange, and quickly gathered around. They had already inspected the corpse earlier, but still had no clue. It died from being bitten. There even seemed to be some kind of toxin residue left around the wound. Did you figure something out? Chen Yulu's face was completely dark, and his tone was incredibly heavy. Calling it a warning wouldn't be an exaggeration. This is really bad. The thing we're facing this time is not simple at all. We absolutely cannot afford any extra trouble. Meanwhile, the Huo clan immortal bug that had just lunged at you saw that it missed, and immediately adjusted its stance, gearing up for a second strike. The cyan-scaled giant python and the 6-winged centipede moved at almost the exact same time. They charged right into the immortal bug's face. The 3 massive monsters violently grappled and tore into each other. The scene was an absolute bloodbath. The 2 giant monsters under your command had already gone through several upgrades, so their combat power was absolutely astonishing. But that immortal bug's regenerative ability was definitely no joke either. Over time, they became locked in a brutal stalemate. The immortal bug was torn to pieces countless times by your 2 monsters, yet it used its completely overpowered growth ability to bounce back to its original state just as many times. The result of this war of attrition was that the entire area was left completely covered in broken scales, shredded meat, sticky slime, and shattered bronze armor. The scene was incredibly gruesome. You originally thought a 2-on-1 fight wouldn't be too much trouble, so you held back from stepping in. But as time kept ticking by, you realized you were still being a bit too overconfident. Speaking of which, you hadn't even tested out the true power of your drought demon physique on a living target yet. Defeating the Huo clan immortal bug rewards 50,000 yin energy points. You looked at the prompt that suddenly popped up, and stood straight up. The immortal bug was completely preoccupied in a deathmatch with the other two monsters. It aggressively lunged right at the cyan-scaled giant python, and casually whipped its heavy tail, aiming squarely at you. Right before the immortal bug could sink its teeth into the giant python, it was struck head-on by a devastating blow, which completely halted its movements. Its giant eyeballs rolled downward, locking onto you. When on Earth did this tiny little creature teleport right in front of it? Before the immortal bug could even process what was happening, a flash of icy chill cut through your pitch-black, deep pool-like eyes. You raised your hand, and brought down another massive, crushing strike. The deafening boom, a thick, bloody mist exploded outward from the point of impact. The immortal bug felt zero pain. It simply began violently thrashing around based purely on bodily instinct, struggling like an absolute maniac to attack you, but it was completely useless. You hit incredibly hard, and kept up a relentlessly fast rhythm. Since your speed and agility had been highly enhanced, dodging its frantic attacks was an absolute breeze. As long as the immortal bug had any nerve cells left, it could regenerate. But under such a fierce and lightning-fast assault, its growth speed inevitably just couldn't keep up. In a mere moment, the absolutely massive Huo clan immortal bug was ripped entirely to shreds. Roar! With one final toss of its head, it lost all strength to fight back. It collapsed heavily onto the ground, turning into nothing more than a mangled, fragmented pile of rotting meat. You knew perfectly well that even in this state, it still wasn't technically dead. But if it wanted to regain its ability to move, that would take at least a few years. You have completely crushed the Huo clan immortal bug. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 50,000 yin energy points. You were highly satisfied. Your 20,000 yin energy points were incredibly well spent. The drought demon physique really was completely badass. The two tomb guarding beasts beside you weren't feeling quite so relaxed, though. The six-winged centipede lowered its massive head, and crawled over to your side, looking somewhat dejected. Even the cyan-scaled giant python was acting just as submissive. Staring in silence for a moment at the pool of bloody mist left behind by the immortal bug, you were a bit puzzled. You then saw the six-winged centipede and the cyan-scaled giant python finally lay completely prostrate on the ground together, as if they were sincerely apologizing. Tomb-guarding beasts and the master of the tomb share a deep telepathic connection. You immediately understood. It turned out they were feeling deeply guilty for not protecting their master properly, ultimately forcing you to step in and handle it yourself. You chuckled softly, raised your hand, and gently patted both of their heads. Don't overthink it, you guys did great. I honestly just wanted to test out my own strength, that's all. Hearing your words, the two monsters didn't raise their heads right away. Instead, they coincidentally stole a quick, nervous glance up at you. After officially confirming that your expression really didn't show any lingering displeasure, they finally felt relieved enough to stand up, shuffling a bit closer to your side. Well, this place could now be considered completely picked clean. You turned around, and were just about to head out when suddenly, a heavy box rolled right out of the immortal bug's mangled corpse. Following the noise, you walked straight toward the object. It was a solid box forged from bronze. By the looks of it, it had been swallowed entirely whole by the immortal bug. Your heart leapt with sudden joy, and you shattered the box with a single punch. Your gaze eagerly swept over the small trinkets scattered inside. When your eyes landed on a pitch-black toad, a system prompt suddenly popped up. Special burial artifact discovered. Ancient sapphire toad. Category: enhancement type. The vitality of all creatures within the wielder's tomb is permanently doubled. Evolution speed is doubled. What truly peculiar materials. To think that such a tiny little toad could actually optimize feng shui. What absolutely breathtaking craftsmanship. Doubled. The two giant pets beside you seemed to instinctively sense the jade's immense power. They eagerly crowded around, their faces full of intense longing. You dangled the jade toad right in front of them, playfully swaying it left and right. They stared unblinkingly at the jade, their massive bodies uncontrollably bobbing up and down along with its movements. It actually felt quite a bit like those old times when you used to tease stray cats by the side of the road. It's just a damn pity that the cats you kept back then weren't anywhere near this powerful, and they all died way too fast. The system's completely untimely appearance scared the absolute crap out of you. But you had to admit, having this thing around really made everything a whole lot more convenient. You were highly satisfied with it. Suddenly, another message was abruptly shoved right in front of your eyes. By picking up a special burial artifact, you have officially activated a special quest. Collect the Muchen bead. Reward: 200,000 yin energy points, God tier treasure chest ×1. Reading the message over one more time, you felt a massive surge of pleasant surprise in your heart. 200,000 yin energy points and a God tier treasure chest. No matter which one it was, they were both incredibly, overwhelmingly tempting. Not to mention, you were already dead set on getting your hands on the Muchen bead anyway. This absolute win-win deal came at the perfect damn time. Right now, the goal was crystal clear, and the warm-up was finally over. It was definitely high time to go check in on this neighbor that you had been milking for all they were worth. He had already crossed paths with the two great generals of King Shion's tomb, the Huo's immortal bug and the Gu infants. This King Shion was no saint, so taking him down a peg was definitely a good thing. Besides, the Muchen bead, that treasure everyone lusted after, he was absolutely determined to get. Unhurriedly, you strolled through the gourd cave as if you were just taking a walk in your own backyard, with your two pets obediently lining up behind you. Following along, though their massive size inevitably scraped off a little bit of the wall at the cave's entrance. You had barely just left on your front foot, when Hu Bai and his group arrived right at the entrance of the tunnel. Just as they were about to go in, the young ones were stopped by Blind Chen. Hold on a second, don't be so reckless. Even if you guys are wearing gas masks, you still need to be careful. The toxic mist inside covers a huge area, so brace yourselves. Remember, stick close to the person in front of you. Whatever you do, don't wander off. Along the way, they had heard Blind Chen's warnings countless times. Right before entering, everyone was pretty tense and gave a serious nod. I'll take the lead, you youngsters follow closely behind me. With that said, Blind Chen didn't wait for them to argue and stepped right into the tunnel. He hadn't taken more than a few steps before he froze. He was certain his memory wasn't failing him. How could he possibly forget? This was the exact culprit that had blinded his eyes. But right now, there wasn't a single trace of mist in front of him. Little did he know that the one who had just left moments ago, the real reason the toxic mist had vanished, had already taken his pack of pets straight through King Shion's tomb, and was now standing right in front of the Lingyun Palace. Discovered a new location, Lingyun Palace. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 10,000 yin energy points. The pavilions and towers looked so ethereal, just like a fairyland. This palace was indeed built with grandeur, totally living up to the name Lingyun. King Shion really knew how to dream of immortality, and his architectural taste wasn't bad either. If it were possible, you kind of wanted to build a place like Lingyun Palace in your own tomb too. With that thought in mind, he opened the system shop and took a look. He saw the newly unlocked Lingyun Palace and its somewhat vague description. Right below, a few massive words glared back. Requires 100,000 yin energy points to redeem. You let out a dry laugh in your mind. Yeah, never mind. Right now, you simply didn't have enough yin energy to splurge. These flashy, impractical decorations could wait for later. Though, who knew when that would be? He exited the shop and took another look at the Lingyun Palace. Since he couldn't take the whole palace back with him right now, couldn't he just sell the stuff inside it? Thinking this, he gave a light leap and landed right at the entrance of Lingyun Palace. The very first thing he saw when he walked in was a massive cauldron made of bronze. Its design was bold and domineering, with a hint of ancient simplicity in its grandeur. Discovered, bronze inscription cauldron for sacrificial rituals. Recycling will grant 1,000 yin energy points. Do you want to recycle? Yes. Then, turning his head to look at the vase nearby, another prompt popped up. Discovered, large porcelain vase with yellow flowers and plum branches. Recycling will grant 200 yin energy points. Do you want to recycle? Just like that, after strolling through, Lingyun Palace was practically stripped bare by him, leaving nothing but an empty, echoing hall. You looked at your stats, feeling completely satisfied with the extra 10,000 yin energy points. Plus the reward from discovering Lingyun Palace earlier. That was a solid 20,000 points. Who knew how many more good treasures were waiting ahead? Live for today, spend the money while you have it. Without a second thought, you opened the shop page, skillfully navigated to the creatures section, and bought a few more two-winged centipedes without any hesitation. Detected that this is not the host's first time redeeming two-winged centipedes. Buff triggered. Under the leadership of an evolved creature of the same species, the redeemed creatures will automatically grow stronger. No extra yin energy points required for evolution. The perk of having an alpha was that they were so easy to manage. You didn't even have to worry about them. The kids would grow up on their own. With such strong self-management skills, plus the buff from the blue jade toad earlier, it was just too convenient. The moment the page closed, the screen turned into specks of glowing light, just like last time, and appeared right beside the six-winged centipede. In the blink of an eye, a few smaller, two-winged centipedes, about half its size, suddenly awakened. The six-winged centipede didn't seem surprised at all. As if it had been ready all along, it let out a series of low chirps in response. The other two-winged centipedes chirped back at the exact same frequency. Finally, they all bowed down in unison before you. You gave a very satisfied nod. Suddenly, Little Green gently nudged his finger with its head. Turning around abruptly, you followed Little Green's gaze. He saw a red, exotic witch's robe hanging from the roof beam. A head hung low, its long hair draped over the clothes. It looked like it was just moving. Kill the skin ghost and tongue GU to obtain 1,500 yin energy points. Seizing the moment, the skin ghost suddenly lunged at you from the roof beam. At the exact same time, darting out from under its robes was a fist-sized black bug. Ha 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 ha. A woman's shrill laughter echoed through the air once again, sending shivers right down your spine. However, in just the blink of an eye, the six-winged centipede beside you swatted its claw down, sending that tongue GU flying straight into the wall. Splat, with a crisp crunch, it burst open right in midair. The skin ghost, still suspended in the air, completely panicked. It flailed its claws wildly, desperately trying to retreat, but its struggles only caused the rope around its neck to snap. Crashing heavily onto the ground, its face, already repulsive with thick, heavy makeup, looked even more wretched after the fall. But it didn't dare hesitate for a second. It immediately folded itself up, pressing its two wide sleeves flat against the ground, as if begging for mercy in a deep bow. The skin ghost is currently in a subduable state. Do you wish to subdue it and set it as a tomb guardian beast? Skin ghost, length, 2 meters, a product of a dying person infected by a GU bug. Its skin and head detach independently, and it possesses its own consciousness. Low attack power, not very useful, can be used as a tomb decoration. Awakened by GU bugs. Controlled by GU bugs. A disgusting and sick thing. Might be pretty good for scaring people, though. The system basically said everything you were thinking. This thing's stats are absolutely trash. But I gotta admit, when I saw that thing lunging at me just now, even he froze for a split second. Looking human, but not human, and incredibly eerie. This must be that legendary uncanny valley effect. At the end of the day, what people fear most are ghosts and spirits like this. Compared to the sheer physical pressure from something like the six-winged centipede, the jump scare this thing just gave was way more direct. Yes, that human skin ghost lay on the ground, nodding furiously, struggling to lift its head to look up at you. It looks like she wants to thank you. But man, that face is seriously hideous. You turned your head away, refusing to look directly at it. One of you, grab her. Let's get ready to head back. A newly summoned two-winged centipede slithered forward. It obediently clamped its jaws around the rag-like human skin ghost. Her pale face was clearly filled with disgust, but she didn't dare make a peep, terrified she'd be swallowed whole the very next second. Just a few steps out of Lingyun Palace is the waterfall. Further down, at the Dragon's Eye, lies King Shion's tomb. Now with the drought demon physique, there's no need to worry about steep cliffs. You just do a massive flying leap, and plunge straight down the waterfall. Bang! In the distance, Blind Chen, who had just made his way inside, suddenly stopped in his tracks. Did you guys hear that? Sounds like something's in here. They had already passed the area where Blind Chen swore there'd be toxic mist, but they hadn't run into jack squat. The group, who had been on edge this whole time, now started to get suspicious. Fatty walked right up and threw a heavy arm around Blind Chen's shoulders. Comrade Old Chen, you're spooking us for no reason again. Look here, this is exactly why a man's gotta stay open-minded. You can't just shut yourself off from the world like that. Think about it, if you hadn't come along this time, you'd have no idea the place turned out like this. That toxic mist that took your eyes back in the day, hasn't it all been blown away by decades of strong winds? Blind Chen couldn't be bothered with his nonsense. He swatted Fatty's arm away and kept walking up ahead, still on high alert. Deep down, he couldn't help but doubt himself a little. Could it be that, over all this time, the toxic mist really just vanished? Beside him, Hu Bai smacked Fatty right in the back of the head. Why do you always gotta run your mouth like that? The mist being gone is a good thing. What, are you begging for it to come back? Old Hu makes a fair point. Making it through safely is a blessing. It saves us a lot of trouble. Seeing that Blind Chen was in a sour mood, Shirley Yang quickly chimed in to agree. Fatty smacked his lips. You two act just like an old married couple, singing the same tune. You really know how to gang up on a guy. Bullying me just because I'm single. I can't out-talk the two of you. Oh, shut up, man. Quit spouting nonsense. It's one thing if you want to trash talk me, but don't drag Shirley into this. Hu Bai immediately waved him off, slapping Fatty on the back of the head yet again. He played it off coolly, but deep down, a pang of disappointment was unavoidable. He knew perfectly well, Shirley Yang wasn't interested in him like that. She was only traveling with him because of the blood curse. The type of guy she actually liked was the domineering, alpha male type. Fatty, completely oblivious to the tension, kept grinning and teasing the two of them. Right then, Blind Chen suddenly stopped dead in his tracks. Is this the mountain god temple? Shirley Yang gazed up at the massive palace looming before them. He asked softly. Now that they had real business to attend to, Fatty knew it was time to drop the jokes. The temple in front of them was completely choked by thick vines. But you could still clearly tell it was a grand palace. Plus, there were no signs of the structure collapsing anytime soon. Naturally, the group felt safe enough to climb up. After doing a careful sweep of the area, they confirmed the air was safe to breathe, and finally pulled off their gas masks. Fatty, out of all of them, just couldn't wait to rip his off. Phew, that nearly suffocated me to death. With a big, round face like mine, cramming it into a tiny mask like that, it's absolutely useless. Hu Bai threw a couple of teasing remarks his way, then hurried to catch up with Blind Chen. Right now, he and Shirley Yang were inspecting the deity statue. What kind of bodhisattva is this supposed to be? Why does it have a pitch-black face, and a yaksha standing right beside it? Hu Bai rubbed his chin as he stared at the statues by the entrance. Blind Chen didn't even turn his head. He was already heading deeper into the mountain god temple. Ancient folks worshipped all sorts of crazy things. Who cares? Let's keep moving inside. We're finally getting on the right track. The old man threw a fit about coming here, but now? He actually seems pretty fired up about it. Reaching the very end of the mountain god temple, they found 9 toads carved out of solid stone. Following the methods of the 16-character feng shui, Hu Bai tinkered with them for a moment. With a loud, grinding click, the group searched around, and right there in the stone wall behind the toads, they found a secret tunnel that had quietly cracked open. They stepped into the tunnel, but hadn't even gone a few paces when the Shiion men scouting up ahead abruptly stopped in their tracks. Watch out, there's something up ahead. Fatty wasn't buying into any of this superstitious nonsense today. What thing? Let me get a good look. Cut it out with all this feudal superstition crap. Let Lord Fatty here beat some sense into it, and drag it right back onto the glorious path of socialist construction. But Blind Chen sharply shot his hand out, stopping him dead. What did you see? The Shiion man quickly described it to him. Blind Chen panicked. Oh, crap, it's a Teng infant. Quick, get the Chicago typewriters out. The moment these things catch a whiff of the living, they wake up. Light them up, now, wah, wah. But it was too late. A chilling baby's cry echoed through the dark tunnel. In a flash, every single person felt a cold sweat break out, the hair on their necks standing straight up. The Shiion men instantly formed a protective circle around Blind Chen. On the other side, Hu Bai and Fatty gripped their guns tight, racking the bolts in unison. They aimed all around them, flashlight beams slicing through the darkness. The eerie crying kept echoing off the walls, sending a bone-deep wave of absolute panic through everyone's hearts. The sound echoed off the tunnel walls so many times, you couldn't even tell where it was coming from. It just made everyone's head spin. Danger was lurking everywhere. Blind Chen didn't hesitate. Forget all that, let's take out the ones that are still asleep first. Followed by a few Shiion men, he bolted straight down the tunnel. The gun in his hands never stopped roaring. The muzzle flash practically lit up the whole passage. They fought as they ran. These mutant babies were way tougher than expected. A few of them still woke up even after taking several bullets, and 1 or 2 managed to actually tear right through Shirley Yang's clothes. By the time they finally stopped, they were an absolute mess. God knows how far they had run. Crying in the tunnel suddenly stopped. They had reached the dead end of the passage. Everyone was gasping for air. Right in front of them was an opening. The edges had caved in for some reason, like something massive had scraped right through it. You could tell it used to be a pretty narrow squeeze. Blind Chen was the most experienced one here, after all. He took a couple of deep breaths and calmed right down. Hu Bai, on the other hand, was bent over, hands on his knees, panting hard. Did we finally shake those things off? Blind Chen didn't look relieved at all. He lowered his voice. Those things, they must be scared off by something. They're actually scared? But why? Who cares why? They stopped following us. That means whatever's up ahead is safe, right? Fatty bounced back pretty fast. He stood up, dusted himself off, and peeked into the bottleneck opening. Blind Chen didn't argue. Fatty had a point, or rather, if he was wrong, then the truth was going to be way more terrifying. It meant there was something up ahead so horrific, even those crazed mutant babies wouldn't dare mess with it. After a quick breather, they all got back on their feet and pushed deeper in. Fatty took the lead, with his tough guy, careless attitude. He was the only one bold enough to walk in front, but barely a few steps into the opening, he muttered a low curse. Holy crap, everyone immediately went on high alert and rushed to his side. The sight in front of them left them totally speechless. Right ahead were the remains of countless mutant babies. After struggling so hard against just a few of them, seeing a scene like this felt absolutely surreal. They walked up to take a closer look, and the more they looked, the crazier it got. You could hear them cursing non-stop from sheer disgust. Those impossible-to-kill mutants were now squashed like mud. Their bodies were covered in bite marks from some kind of creature. Some were nothing more than torn limbs, which meant the number of slaughtered mutants was even more than what filled this entire corridor. It was a completely one-sided massacre. Hu Bai and Shirley Yang turned the remains over, their frowns getting deeper and deeper. They looked incredibly grim. Still in shock, Blind Chen started searching the area for any clues as to what did this. It only took him a moment to spot something on the ground. It was a piece of shattered shell from some kind of insect. He felt it carefully for a moment, realizing it felt awfully familiar. This is the shell of a six-winged centipede. You guys, get over here and look at this. Still a bit dazed, the group gathered around. When the Shiion men saw the thing in Blind Chen's hand, their faces instantly froze. They looked terrified. Hu Bai noticed their reaction and asked cautiously, "What kind of shell is that? Do you guys recognize it? Recognize it? Man, we way more than just recognize it. Back at Mount Pingshan, we almost died because of this damn thing." Blind Chen's expression was locked in a memory, mixed with a very real trace of fear. Fatty saw how tense things were getting. He forced a smirk, trying to laugh it off. "Oh, come on, it can't be that bad, right? At the end of the day, isn't it just a bug? Plus, look at all the advanced gear we've got now. Listen, back then, our two great factions, Shiiling and Banshan, joined forces to raid Mount Pingshan. And we still almost got wiped out by this monstrosity. If it wasn't for that Nuqing rooster." Blind Chen had been a fortune teller for years, so telling a gripping story was second nature to him. In just a few words, he sketched out the horrors of what happened back then. Hu Bai and the others stood there, jaws slightly dropped. They had only ever heard street rumors about it, but hearing it straight from a survivor was deeply chilling. Fatty Wong gulped hard. Wait, so if this six-winged centipede is really that badass, what if it actually shows up? Are we even going to make it out alive? Hey, how about we just make a run for it? I'm not leaving, I have to get the Much and Bead. Shirley Yang suddenly stepped forward, her voice raising in desperation. I'm already cursed anyway. If we don't find that Much and Bead, the illness will trigger, my blood will clot, and I'll die. I'd rather stay right here and fight whatever monster is in this tomb to the bitter end. After she said that, everyone went dead silent. The air turned ice cold. Finally, Blind Chen broke the silence with a couple of coughs. She's right, we might as well keep pushing forward. Besides, who's to say we'll actually run into that thing? Since the most experienced authority figure had spoken, the rest naturally didn't argue. They started moving forward again. Not long after, they passed through a fossilized forest and saw floating remains on the water. The group stumbled upon a very bizarre stone platform. By the looks of it, it was an altar used to sacrifice something. The edges were carved with eerie, grotesque reliefs. Hiss. The drawings on this altar look kind of familiar. Yeah, it looks just like what we saw in that temple outside. Everyone gathered around to inspect it. Taking the opportunity, Hu Bai started explaining the sacrificial customs of these ethnic minority groups. I'm guessing this black-haired monster wearing the golden mask is their mountain god. And this space right back here is where they held the sacrifices. Those mutant babies and floating corpses we saw earlier? They were probably food fed to the mountain god. Wait, are you saying the six-winged centipede might be the mountain god here? Shirley Yang asked, rubbing her chin. Blind Chen gave a slight nod. It's not impossible. After all, the ancients' worship almost always stemmed from primal fear. So it's totally normal for the physical descriptions to be a bit off. After a quick discussion, the group decided to push even deeper to uncover the real truth. Meanwhile, on the other side, you were gathering up a bunch of your pets, getting ready to head down to the bottom of the lake. The giant azure snake was being incredibly attentive. It slithered right up to you, lowering its massive body, offering to carry you down to the lake bed. Seeing this, the six-winged centipede off to the side instantly got jealous. Its mandibles let out a series of low growls, along with that distinct, eerie clicking sound unique to insects. The few two-winged beasts behind it echoed with the exact same noise. Outnumbered by the swarm, the blue-scaled giant python had no choice but to slither away in defeat. The six-winged beast darted right up to you. It lowered its massive head, inviting you to hop on. The bullied blue-scaled python wasn't discouraged, though. It immediately dove headfirst into the water to clear the path for you. Watching these two big guys fight for your favor, you were left utterly speechless for a moment. Very soon, the entire journey was practically completely clear of obstacles. In just a few moments, a heavy stone door appeared right in front of them. Once this door was opened, King Shi'on's coffin would be mere inches away. You excitedly licked your lips. The muchin bead felt like it was already in the bag. But right before your hand even touched that stone door, a booming voice echoed from inside. Who goes there? Who dares to disturb my eternal slumber? You really didn't expect this. To think King Shi'on was actually the type to lay his cards on the table. Well, that made things a whole lot easier. You were all for keeping the peace anyway, as long as you could get your hands on the muchin bead. Getting it without breaking a sweat would naturally be even better. Standing right in front of the stone door, you spoke up, neither cocky nor completely humble. Senior, sorry to bother you, I'm your brand new neighbor who just moved in. I heard you've got the muchin bead in there, and honestly, I've really got my eye on it. I was wondering if you could just hand it over to me? As your words faded, there was dead silence from behind the door. Thinking you just weren't being clear enough, you added another line. Don't worry, as long as you give me the muchin bead, I promise I won't lay a single finger on you. You can keep sleeping for as long as you damn well please, and I won't touch any of your other stuff. King Shi'on snapped back. What kind of absolute bullshit are you spouting? Where did a wild, lowly spirit like you come from, daring to covet such a divine artifact? The King Shi'on on the other side completely lost his temper and let out a furious roar. I am the magnificent King of Dian. I have rested here for hundreds, if not 1,000 years. In life, I enjoyed endless riches and achieved monumental glory. And you think someone with your pathetic little skills can bark orders at me? You let out a cold scoff. Monumental glory? Give me a break. Don't think I don't know exactly how many of your own people you brutally slaughtered. You didn't even spare the nobles. The way those aristocrats in the Lingyun Palace died was absolutely horrific, and there is no way you don't know that. King Shi'on's tone, however, was filled with twisted pride. To die for my glorious cause is their absolute, supreme honor. You smacked your lips in sheer disgust. Wow, this old bastard is genuinely shameless. So, even if you completely emptied out his entire tomb right now, you wouldn't feel a single ounce of guilt. What incredible arrogance. No wonder everybody wants to come and rob your ass. That's just straight up karma. By now, King Shi'on had lost all of his patience, his tone growing dangerously heavy. He spat out every single word. I am already sick and tired of talking to you. What could a filthy peasant like you possibly understand? Say one more word, and I will have my demonic infants tear your grave wide open. You simply grinned, a deeply contemptuous smirk spreading across your face. Hey, you asked for it. I gave you a chance, but you just had to be a stubborn prick. As soon as you said that, you leapt right off the six-winged beast's back, landing squarely in front of the heavy stone door. You pathetic little ant, you can't even get past my door. Before King Shi'on could even finish his sentence, you suddenly threw a massive punch. Your fist slammed straight into the stone door. The incredibly thick stone cracked loudly on impact, and with just that single punch, it completely shattered into a pile of rubble. King Shi'on's voice trembled with sheer rage. You insolent ant, you're practically begging for death. Right after he screamed that, you heard a bizarre sound echoing from inside the tomb. It sounded like some kind of twisted musical instrument, but there was absolutely no melody to it. It just made you feel intensely irritated and restless. If you really had to describe it, it sounded an awful lot like a severely out-of-tune whistle. It dragged on for about 30 seconds before the weird pitch suddenly stopped, and King Shi'on let out a sinister, mocking laugh. You wandering, wretched ghost. You're nothing but a lowly peasant. Now sit right there and wait for your gruesome death. You didn't say a single word in response. A completely cold smirk hung on your face. This dumbass could only act tough for a tiny bit longer. He was about to find out real fast that not a single one of his little monster boy scouts was left alive. Past the shattered stone tomb door lay the Bridge of 3 Lives. As you quickly scanned the area, a system prompt instantly popped up with an introduction. Bridge of 3 Lives. Attribute, Spirit, Quality, Medium. Cross the Bridge of 3 Lives, walk the path of immortals. A legendary tomb decoration rumored to help the deceased ascend to complete immortality after death. It can totally disorient standard evil spirits. It sure looks pretty, but it absolutely does not have any actual function to help anyone become immortal. That's just pure superstition. However, once purchased, its style can be fully customized based on the tomb owner's personal taste. A genuinely high-class decoration. Standard evil spirits, huh? Well, he certainly wasn't your standard evil spirit. You walked straight across the Bridge of 3 Lives. It felt like a super soft breeze just gently brushed across your face. Aside from being a tiny bit chilly, there wasn't any discomfort at all. Is that really it? Talk about flashy but completely useless. As you closed in step by agonizing step, King Shi'on finally started to realize that something was terribly wrong. He had clearly issued the attack command, Why hadn't those demonic infants responded yet? They were the ultimate secret weapon he had painstakingly created. There was absolutely no way they would ever disobey his will. If they weren't responding to him, there was only one possible explanation. They were all completely dead. A sharp jolt of pure shock struck King Shiion's heart. His attention violently snapped right back to you. Just who the hell was this kid that had suddenly barged in here? You, meanwhile, looked perfectly calm and unfazed, having already smashed right through his front door. And now, you were leading your entire gang of beasts in an open, blatant robbery. HMPH, if you don't know what's good for you, you're gonna have to pay the ultimate price. You've occupied this damn place for way too long. You've played landlord long enough. Today, I am going to completely raid your filthy, thieving house. A cocky grin hung right on the corner of your lips. Your footsteps were light and breezy. Boys, strip this whole place totally clean. Even the corpse beetles jumped straight into action, while the two winged beasts violently smashed right through the solid walls. They brutally ripped a stunning mermaid lamp right out of the stone. Mermaid lamp discovered. Recycling will yield 1000 yin energy points. Would you like to recycle it right now? Yes, a bunch of tiny corpse beetles actually teamed up, dragging over an incredibly gorgeous glazed cup from the side of the room. Glazed cup discovered. Recycling will grant 200 yin energy points. Proceed? Yes. Watching his own home, with every single nod he made, an item would vanish into thin air. In just a moment, the place was completely emptied out. King Shion boiled with rage. You brute. Plundering worldly possessions by force. Is that how a gentleman behaves? You let out a sharp laugh. Looking around the empty chamber, you mocked. A gentleman? You're talking to me about being a gentleman? A king who slaughtered countless innocent people yet still crowned himself as a wise ruler. For your bullshit path to immortality, you drowned pregnant women alive. You turned their unborn fetuses into cursed parasitic babies. There are even nobles in the Lingyun Palace who you boiled alive into human skin ghosts. And you have the nerve to talk to me about being a gentleman? King Shion's tone was cold and arrogant, full of cruel amusement. Interesting. Since you know my methods, you should know that I can crush you like a bug. Those ignorant peasants were born worthless and lacked ambition. They stood in the way of my eternal life, so naturally, they had to be eradicated. Don't tell me you're actually fighting for justice on their behalf? How utterly absurd. What an unreasonable tyrant. Fighting for justice? I just straight up hate your guts, that's all. You're hoarding so many treasures. What's the point of hiding them away? I asked you to give me the muchen bead and you refused. So stingy. As he spoke, he sped up the process of completely emptying out King Shion's tomb. King Shion watched with burning fury, but there was absolutely nothing he could do about it. He slightly softened his tone, yet still clung to his so-called royal arrogance. Even if you hollow out this entire place, you still can't find my coffin. I will give you a way out. As long as you are willing to leave this tomb, I am willing to share this grade 3 feng shui treasure land with you. You put on a thoughtful expression, your tone deeply mocking. A grade 3 feng shui treasure land? Now that's kind of interesting. King Shion breathed a sigh of relief, thinking he could continue to persuade you. But the very next second, you completely flipped the script. Except, I think this place is a lot more comfortable for just one person. As for your coffin, leaving the sentence hanging, you let out a cold chuckle. Relying on your memory, you rushed toward a spot in the center of the burial chamber, an ordinary-looking granite bulge. King Shion instantly panicked. How could this brat possibly know his exact location? But you didn't strike right away. Instead, you just strolled around the spot, glancing around in all directions. He must have just wandered over there by chance to test his luck. The eye socket of the Tai Sui isn't that easy to find. King Shion desperately tried to comfort himself, though cold sweat was dripping in his heart. He completely missed seeing your fist, which was currently gathering immense power. Once the location was fully confirmed, you suddenly stopped in your tracks. With a deafening boom, the white stones completely shattered, revealing a human-shaped coffin hidden inside. Didn't I just find it for you? The moment the words left your mouth, he grabbed King Shion's coffin and violently slammed it right onto the ground. As the coffin crashed down, King Shion finally realized the sheer gravity of the situation. He shrieked in terror, struggling and babbling incoherently. Think this through. Heaven and earth will destroy a king slayer. If you let go right now, whatever you want, I will give it to you. You flashed a wicked grin. Without a single trace of emotion in your voice, you simply spat out 3 words. The violently struggling King Shion suddenly fell silent. He was hesitating. Hey, death is literally knocking on your door, yet you still refuse to give up your bullshit dream of becoming an immortal. Fucking hilarious. We are done talking. Just die peacefully. There was zero mercy in your eyes. Turning his fist into a claw, he smashed right through King Shion's coffin with a single strike, grabbing King Shion's head. He hoisted King Shion's entire corpse up into the air. Sweeping his peripheral vision, the six-winged centipede nearby was very obedient, carrying a bronze sword over in its jaws. He casually grabbed the sword. With one clean slash and absolutely zero hesitation, King Shiion's head rolled onto the ground. He only left behind a venomous, teeth-gritting curse. "I will definitely make you pay the price." You remained completely expressionless. You lightly pried the muchen bead right out of King Shion's mouth. As for the rest of the severed head, you casually tossed it aside, who knows where it landed. Special Quest: Phoenix Bloodline. Quest: Collect the muchen bead. Status: Completed. Reward: 200,000 yin energy points and 1 god tier treasure chest. Rewards have been distributed. Host, please check your inventory. Would you like to open the god tier treasure chest? You burst into laughter. This King Shion. He barked really loud, but his actual power was a total joke. Is that all he had? He calmly and unhurriedly tapped to open the god tier treasure chest. Yes, congratulations to the host for obtaining 50,000 yin energy points from the god tier treasure chest. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Phoenix Bloodline exchange voucher from the god tier treasure chest. The Bloodline system has now been activated. Click on the store to view details. You immediately switched over to the store. Bloodlines are a powerful power boosting system. If you possess a bloodline, leveling up will yield twice the results with half the effort. Your abilities will also undergo a qualitative leap. All living things are inherently equal, but a bloodline absolutely determines the upper and lower limits of your potential. After finishing the introduction, you glanced through the categories. Most of the bloodlines available for purchase in the store were named after various mythical beasts. He even saw the legendary, poison immune, evil repelling Qilin bloodline, which grants immortality, and the Phoenix bloodline was actually ranked even further back than the Qilin bloodline. You tapped on the Phoenix bloodline icon. Phoenix bloodline. Status: Activated. Quality: Supreme First Class, a vastly powerful bloodline, completely on par with the world-renowned Qilin bloodline. In certain aspects, it possesses even greater capabilities, able to aid the bloodline bearer in evolution. However, a certain level of physical strength is required to host a high-tier bloodline. If a creature is not strong enough, they will instead suffer deadly bloodline rejection. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. You stared at this description, licking your lips. A qualitative leap. Does that mean the green-scaled giant might actually be able to evolve? As for whether it could bear the bloodline, you smiled. Let's try it and find out, shall we? Just as you were about to continue, the system popped up a second notification. Detected that the host has activated a top-tier bloodline, automatically triggering the large-scale special quest, Path to Immortality. Phase 1, Current Progress. Slay or conquer large-scale tombs. 1 out of 3. Reward: 1 god-level treasure chest. Another special quest. You had just scored some epic loot from a chest, and now here was another chance to grab one. This was way too good of a deal. You read through the quest twice, memorizing every single word, before closing the interface. Continuing what you were doing. Naturally, after clearing a dungeon, you needed to level up and change gear as fast as possible. This was your habit from your past life. Does the host confirm the use of the Phoenix bloodline? Yes. Scanning in progress. Scan complete. Surrounding creatures. Basic Drought Demon, 6-winged Centipede, and Green-scaled Python can bear the Phoenix bloodline. Spend 150,000 yin energy points to redeem 3 drops of Phoenix blood. And bestow them upon eligible creatures? Seeing the words, Drought Demon, it took you a second to realize it was talking about yourself. Redeem. The moment you hit the button, 3 clusters of matter materialized from the redemption screen and hovered in midair, radiating a soft, pale yellow glow. They looked quite bizarre, yet carried an inexplicably divine aura. So this is the Phoenix bloodline. You marveled inwardly. But there were only 3 drops. Sure, they looked incredibly powerful at a glance, but how were they supposed to merge into their bloodlines? You had barely pondered the question, when in the next second, the 3 drops of Phoenix blood began to slowly expand and stretch out. The texture of this bloodline was very subtle. It didn't look like a liquid. Instead, it was more like a bizarre ball of light, gradually growing into wispy threads that reached out towards you and your 2 pets. Seeing this strange sight, your 2 pets instinctively felt a flash of fear. But seeing that you weren't resisting, they naturally didn't back down either. You could feel the endless streams of light expanding into a sphere around you, completely taking over your vision. Inside your Drought Demon body, warm breath of energy flowed along your dried-up veins, spreading throughout your entire being. The other 2 tomb-guarding beasts were also enveloped in this pale golden light. Their bodies went from being tense and resistant at first, to slowly relaxing. A moment later, the soft rays of light began to solidify, forming a thin cocoon that clung tightly to them. The cocoon grew thicker and thicker, eventually turning into a few massive eggshells. The eggshells seemed to be alive, flickering on and off, as if they were breathing. The remaining winged centipedes and corpse beetles hovered nearby, clearly clueless about what was going on. After about 10 minutes or so, the eggshells formed by the light began to crumble into dust, drifting away into the air bit by bit until they vanished completely. And the figures that emerged from the shells were now much taller and far more robust than before. You opened your eyes again, and several notification boxes, also glowing with that same pale golden light, popped up in front of you. Congratulations, the host's tomb guarding beast, the 6-winged centipede, has successfully evolved into the 8-winged heavenly centipede. Congratulations, the host's tomb guarding beast, the green-scaled python, has successfully evolved into the white-scaled serpent. Congratulations, the host has successfully activated the Phoenix bloodline, basic level. Drought demon physique upgraded to intermediate level. It really evolved. Filled with excitement, you turned to look. At this moment, the 6-winged centipede's body was much larger than before. Not only that, but an extra pair of wings had grown on its back. Its pitch-black shell was now purer, as dark as a mystic phoenix. A golden pattern, shaped like a glowing eye, had appeared right in the middle of its forehead. Its carapace flared outwards majestically, and its frontmost limbs had transformed into a pair of scythe-like claws. It completely radiated the aura of a mythical beast, absolutely domineering. On the other side, the green-scaled python had undergone a total makeover. Although its size had shrunk a bit, its scales had turned completely white. Shining like flawless crystals, its eyes flashed with golden light, and faint golden patterns dotted its cheeks, giving off a vibe that was both beautifully eerie and deeply divine. Looking closely, you could even see a faint glow rippling around its mouth every time it flicked its tongue. This truly was a fundamental leap in power. However, after admiring your 2 tomb-guarding beasts, you were pretty curious about what you looked like now. Coincidentally, when you were looting King Shiion's tomb earlier, there was still some stuff left behind. A few winged centipedes nearby were very smart and obedient, immediately dragging over a massive bronze mirror. You glanced at yourself in the mirror. You looked completely different now. Your stature was taller, your muscles perfectly proportioned, with the majestic, commanding visage of a dragon. A faint golden light shimmered in your dark eyes, and the long hair cascading down your back was as black as ink. Although your face was expressionless, you radiated an awe-inspiring aura without even trying. Your skin had also regained some lifelike color, making you look quite dashing. The only problem was that your clothes were now ripped to shreds, which totally ruined the look. You opened the system store, casually scrolled through, and found a dark, gold-trimmed robe with hidden patterns. It didn't have any special stats, but it looked really sharp, and the price wasn't high either. With a gentle tap of your finger, in the blink of an eye, the item materialized from the screen and draped itself perfectly over you. Standing tall and elegant, with your black robes, dark hair, a face as cold as frost, and eyes like shining stars. With a sweep of your wide sleeves, for a moment, you looked like a sovereign emperor stepping right out of the ancient era. You were extremely satisfied. It was absolutely true that clothes make the man. Now that King Shion was dead, your looting became even more brazen and relentless. Even though you had already sold off most of the obviously valuable treasures here. If you scrounged around a bit more, you could still uncover the other goodies that sneaky old bastard had hidden away in the corners. Aside from that, you remembered that the muchen bead wasn't the only good stuff in this place. You walked up to the suppression coffin. At this moment, the corpse-suppressing bronze mirror was still firmly embedded in the center. You couldn't care less about whatever was hiding inside this bronze coffin. If you could destroy its master, King Shion, you could naturally destroy it too. You reached out your hand. Looking completely unfazed, you effortlessly pried the bronze mirror right off the coffin. Special burial artifact discovered. Corpse-suppressing bronze mirror. Category: offense. A mirror crafted through the dark arts of feng shui. Whatever the bronze mirror is pointed at can be suppressed. When used right, it can achieve unexpected results. Shining this mirror at yourself might just be a creative way to self-harm. Authentic item. Good stuff. This is the very first time getting an offensive burial artifact. You've gotten totally used to the system's sarcastic remarks, accurately catching a crucial piece of intel instead. This ancient corpse-suppressing mirror actually works even on a drought demon of your caliber. It's way more effective than you thought. But, after taking it down, the evil corpse inside the bronze coffin didn't make a single sound. You figured, it's probably because King Shion is already dead. It has no reason to struggle anymore. Guess it knows what's good for it. You smirked coldly. About 10 minutes later, you exchanged all the useless artifacts. Starting to feel a bit bored, you did the math. All in all, you've raked in another 50,000 yin energy points in this place. That makes a grand total of 150,000 yin energy points now. Taking another inventory. On this trip, you bagged the corpse-suppressing bronze mirror, the muchen bead, blue jade toad, plus the rainbow poison mist and the phoenix bloodline. And, oh, you picked up a few flying mutant beasts along the way. Damn, looks like robbing your neighbors really is the best way to get rich quick. Plus, now that this grade 3 treasure land has no owner, you can just naturally move right in. At this rate, it's really not impossible for you to become an immortal one day. You were absolutely thrilled crunching the numbers when suddenly, little Ching tugged at your sleeve from the side. You turned your head. Right now, the other tomb guarding beasts were also looking completely panicked, huddling closer to you. You looked around. The white stones in the chamber were all melting, turning into something like thick cream. The ground around you also started getting slippery and soft. That empty cavity where King Shiion's coffin used to lie was also slowly expanding and getting bigger. The corpse cave has been triggered. Tisk, you frowned, totally forgot about this part. This place was built by King Shiion using the shell of a meat fungus. And inside this shell, there's still the massive death aura, accumulated after King Shion slaughtered countless people back in the day. An imbalance of yin and yang is a massive taboo in this world. And all this pent-up death aura has already severely wrecked the yin and yang order of this place. Corpse Cave is basically a place that acts like a black hole once that natural order is destroyed. Suddenly, a hand tried to grab the edge of your clothes, interrupting your train of thought. You just gave it a sideways glance. Beside you, 8 Wings didn't hesitate for a second and swiped its claws down, slicing it right off onto the ground. But that severed hand was still twisting around, and even more hands started popping out from the white stones, all swarming straight toward you. You swept your gaze over them. If a normal person got trapped by these hands, they'd probably be stuck here forever. But you weren't in a rush at all. Taking a casual stroll, you simply crushed another hand that tried to sneak up on you under your boot. After all, you're no normal person. Besides, if Hu Bai could make it out alive, you obviously could too. In fact, you were actually kind of looking forward to it. Sure, the corpse cave expands slowly, but once it fully activates, it's an absolute death trap. If you could set up a ring of corpse caves around your own tomb in the future, now that would be badass. When that time comes, poison mist on the outside, corpse caves on the inside. Anyone who comes in, dies. You'd really like to see which grave robber would dare to mess with you then. Casually strolling out of the newly activated corpse cave, you turned your head and looked at all your tomb guarding beasts, who had followed you out completely safe and sound. With a grand wave of your hand, you led them away. Meanwhile, on the other side, Hu Bai and his crew hadn't made much progress. Along the way, the group kept second-guessing everything, still shaken with lingering fear. They even started trying to figure out a plan to deal with that 6-winged centipede. But, the more they planned, the more terrified they got. Fatty Wong absolutely couldn't stand this kind of heavy atmosphere. After listening for a while and realizing they were getting absolutely nowhere, he let out a loud shout. What the hell are you guys dragging your feet for? Why are you overthinking everything? In our line of work, plans never keep up with changes anyway. Worst comes to worst, if we run into trouble, your Lord Fatty will just blast him away. In the face of my firepower, all these monsters and demons are just paper tigers. What is that? Right at that moment, Hu Bai's face suddenly turned dead serious as he pointed into the distance. Hearing this, everyone instantly went dead silent. They looked in the direction he was pointing. That thing, why does it look exactly like the mountain god from the murals? Hearing that, the crew froze in their tracks. Their already slow pace came to a complete halt. A golden mask, and a bronze shell, piled up off to the side. It really did look exactly like the depiction on the mural. But, why was it just lying there right now? Completely motionless, the group stepped forward, keeping a safe distance, and began studying the massive heap of a monster in front of them. Fatty walked up, circling the mask and the leftover shell, and said, "This really does look way more like that mountain god on the mural. Especially this golden mask, though, I don't see any of that black hair or whatever that was on the painting." Since he had actually been here before, Blind Chen immediately chimed in after hearing this. The totems worshipped in these ethnic minority regions are mostly abstract. That mural is incredibly ancient. It was probably just drawn based on a few iconic, defining features. This might just be some sort of giant bug or something. It had so many limbs around it that we mistook them for hair. Shirley Yang also stepped forward to inspect it, but she just shook her head. No, this isn't a centipede. The shell is completely different. Plus, come take a look at this. The remains of this thing's body are actually still regenerating and growing. According to what you said earlier, Blind Chen, that 6-winged centipede needs its inner core to heal itself. But this is a totally different situation. Seeing her complicated expression, Hu Bai guessed she must have figured something out. So, what exactly do you think this mountain god is? Well, this is just a guess. But this might be something called Huo's immortal bug. It's an incredibly ancient organism. After listening to Shirley Yang explain the details about Huo's immortal bug, Blind Chen slowly nodded. Yeah, I've heard of this thing too. It's really damp around here, which is definitely the perfect environment for it to grow. If this thing is really the mountain god of this place, why the hell is it just lying here? Fatty scratched his head. What's so weird about that? It's the mountain god around here. It can lie wherever it damn well pleases. It owns the place, after all. Maybe it just went into hibernation. We'd better take this chance to get out of here, and stay as far away from it as possible. Hu Bai shook his head. No, look closer. There are fragments of its scales scattered all over the place. This isn't your average hibernation. It's lying here because it's badly wounded. That's why it isn't moving. The moment he said that, a heavy silence fell over the group. Fatty's mouth twitched. Don't go scaring people, old Hu. Monks don't tell lies, remember? What if it just tripped and fell by accident? Do you honestly believe that yourself? Hu Bai shot him a look. Fatty shrugged, his voice shaking a little. Well, I can't exactly buy what you guys are selling. That the mountain god here isn't a six-winged centipede, but this beat into a pulp, undying Huo's worm right in front of us. 2 giant monsters? That's way too terrifying. Just as he finished speaking, one of the Shiion men walked over from the side. There might be more than 2. As he spoke, he held up a dark greenish-blue scale and showed it to the group. Blind Chen didn't step forward. Instead, he kept studying the undying Huo's worm. The Shiion men had probably already asked him about it. Shirley Yang took the scale. She examined it from different angles. The texture and the patterns. This looks like it belongs to some kind of snake. But the sheer size of it is unbelievable. This snake must be at least 10 meters long. Instantly, everyone fell dead silent, completely dumbstruck. No one could utter a single word. Are you saying, there's a third monster out there? Fatty gulped. He took a sharp breath. 3 massive monsters, fighting over our skinny little asses? Are the monsters down here really that desperate? No one was in the mood to joke around with him. Everyone remained silent. The sound of flowing water echoed from nearby, and faintly, they could hear a few incredibly deep, low croaks. It sounded like a giant toad. Blind Chen finally broke the silence. It might not be just that. You're all thinking way too simply. He gestured, pointing at the exposed, fleshy parts of the undying bug. He said, look over here. The flesh in this area feels much thicker, and much softer, too. This part must have grown back recently. But this wasn't a fatal blow. Because this part has already healed. The healed areas wouldn't be the cause of death. The regenerative power of this undying Huo's worm is more than enough to handle the attacks from those other 2 creatures. He walked around to the other side, right behind the bug's bronze dragon armor. Pointing at a massive, ruptured wound, he said, now, take a look at this. This wound is completely different. Something smashed through it in a single, devastating blow. The sheer force of the impact literally pulverized the flesh underneath. The impact was as brutal as heavy artillery. The group quickly gathered around to get a closer look. Just as Blind Chen had pointed out, there were several deep, bullet-like punctures on its back armor. But the size and power of the blasts were far more terrifying. And whatever beast caused these wounds knew exactly where to strike for maximum damage. Every single hit was meant to kill, and it seemed to have struck multiple spots almost simultaneously. It was practically an instant kill. At this realization, everyone swallowed hard. Facing just one of these nightmarish monsters would be a death sentence. And now, there was a whole group of them down here? It was absolutely horrifying. Fatty Wong wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and forced a nervous smile. Hey, why the long faces, guys? We work underground for a living, right? The worst thing we can do is scare ourselves half to death. Think about it, if things got this brutal, the other monsters probably beat the crap out of each other too. What's there to worry about? Hu Bai could tell he was trying desperately to lighten the mood. Playing along, he said, Fatty has a point. There's no need to panic. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Let's just keep moving forward. We'll figure something out, even if you say that. Just look at us. What are the actual odds of us surviving? One of the Shiion men, who had been quiet all along, suddenly blurted out. The other Shiion men quickly muttered in agreement. They exchanged nervous glances, then walked over to Blind Chen. They bowed their heads and cupped their hands respectfully. Chief, you really can't blame us for being terrified of dying down here. This job just isn't worth the risk anymore. We only came this time for the brothers we lost, and for the legendary treasures in King Shiion's tomb. We believed in your skills, which is why we followed you. But looking at how things are now, it's a miracle if any of us make it out alive. They lowered their heads even further. We are truly sorry, Chief, but we're tapping out here. Staying alive is what matters. We're heading back. Blind Chen's face darkened with anger. He remained silent for a long moment. Almost half of the crew had just asked to quit. If he lost them, this expedition would become significantly more dangerous. He genuinely couldn't bear dragging his brothers to their deaths. But they had come so much further than before. He had finally seen a glimmer of hope. The hope of finally obtaining the much bead. And the cruelest kind of despair is a hope that's just out of reach. Blind Chen decided to gamble everything. Listen to me, brothers. It's not that I'm forbidding you from leaving. But we came all the way down here, found absolutely nothing, and we're already bleeding money just for the trip. It's just a total loss. How about this? If we make it out of here alive, I'll increase your cut by 20%. Hearing this, the Shiion men began whispering among themselves. Blind Chen added one last promise. And even if you don't make it out, for those of you with wives, kids, and elderly parents, I will personally ensure they are taken care of. Keeping your families fed for the rest of your lives is the least I can do. The Shiion, man standing closest to Blind Chen, who seemed to be their leader, finally spoke up. The chief is right, we've already made it this far. There's no turning back now. Since we're here, we gotta make a real name for ourselves. The chief was generous enough to give up his share. We can't lose face now, we ain't leaving. Hearing this, the guys just looked at each other. The sound of them gulping down their fear was loud and clear. The chief is right, it's not like we're scared of leaving our wives and kids behind to starve. We're tomb robbers, we don't even have families. It was us who lost our nerve back there. Damn, it's embarrassing. Yeah, you're right, counting this time, the grudge from over 10 years ago. If we don't get our hands on the much bead and dig up that old bastard King Shiion's tomb, we'll never rest in peace. No matter how scary these freaks are, we aren't exactly pushovers. With our weapons in hand, we got nothing to be afraid of. Blind Chen gave a nod. Looking visibly moved, he said, let's go. We push forward. The men from the Shiion faction turned around and led the group deeper inside. Though they talked a big game just now, everyone listening knew the truth. They were still terrified. The cold sweat never left their pale faces. After walking for about a few hundred meters, they reached the edge again, and a solid tomb wall appeared right in front of them. The Shiion point man had the sharpest eyes. He immediately spotted a corpse bug clinging to the wall above. He reached out and slashed his combat knife. As if killing it would prove he wasn't scared. He muttered a curse, just this ugly piece of crap? Disgusting. The corpse bug let out a high-pitched screech and hit the ground. Instantly, a freezing chill shot up from the back of the protagonist's neck, rushing straight to his brain. System alert. Host's tomb guardian beast, corpse bug, quantity -1. Killer faction, Shiion. The protagonist furrowed his brow. He had messed with the Shiion guys earlier. And judging by the timeline, right about now should be exactly when Hu Bai and his crew arrived right outside the tomb. Looks like those two groups had teamed up. These bastards really don't know what's good for them. First, it was the Shiion crew who came to dig up his grave out of nowhere. He only killed those intruders, strictly out of self-defense. Besides, along the way, he had cleared out so many huge threats for them. Even if he was just doing it in passing, that was still a massive favor. And now, these ungrateful pricks were biting the hand that fed them, actually daring to kill his corpse bug. Shameless tomb robbing scum. Host, the system chimed in. Your actions up to this point are honestly way worse than simple tomb robbing. Killing everything, looting everything. That's a lot more extreme than tomb raiders who just take the most valuable items. The protagonist remained completely unfazed, calmly replying in his mind. Tomb robbers are the living stealing from the dead. All that wealth and glory is just a fleeting illusion to them. But I'm a dead man taking from the dead. It's literally just like taking stuff from my own house. What's the problem? The system was so stumped by his logic, it had no idea how to reply. After shutting down the system, the protagonist's mind flared with intent. He immediately issued an order, commanding the outer swarms of corpse bugs to mobilize. Trap the intruders. I'm on my way. It was high time to show them exactly who the hell they were messing with. In an instant, the corpse bugs that received his command swarmed into the air. Like a massive, dark storm cloud, they began to rapidly gather at the entrance of the tomb. The protagonist didn't waste any time either. He shot up and dashed forward. After all, the intruders this time were master tomb raiders. A swarm of corpse bugs alone might not be enough to hold down Hu Bai and his crew. Meanwhile, on the other side of the corridor, the few scattered corpse bugs crawling on the walls had already been completely slaughtered by the Shiion men. Hu Bai had initially wanted to step in and stop them, but those guys were just too fast. In the blink of an eye, all the corpse bugs were dead. Strange, with every corpse bug that got killed, that gnawing sense of unease in his gut grew stronger. But even after the very last bug fell dead on its back, absolutely nothing happened. Hu Bai figured maybe he was just overthinking things. But right at that moment, Blind Chen suddenly picked up on a weird noise coming from the distance. Everyone, defensive positions, now. Something's coming, he yelled. It's flying, and it's moving extremely fast. The Shiion men instantly froze, quickly forming a tight circle around Blind Chen to protect him. Hu Bai and his crew whipped out their rifles, fingers tense on the triggers. Flashlight beams cut wildly through the dark as they scanned their surroundings on high alert. Suddenly, it got dead quiet. The only sound left was the steady flow of water. Screech, a piercing shriek tore through the silence and slammed into their ears. Instantly, a massive wave of goosebumps erupted all over their bodies. That sound, is that some kind of bug? Someone whispered nervously. The men who had just smashed the corpse bugs suddenly felt a deep spike of fear. Don't tell me, we just pissed off a whole swarm of them? Even Fatty, who usually wasn't afraid of anything, had a tremor in his voice. As soon as he said that, a violent shudder ripped through the entire group. Blind Chen's mouth twitched. He was just about to tell them to stop jinxing it, when suddenly, a violent gust of wind blasted out from the tunnel. It brought with it an absolute storm of black dots and the deafening roar of millions of fluttering wings. Everyone scrambled in pure panic, diving to the ground. Hu Bai violently snapped his head up. Those countless black specks flying right at their faces were all aggressively flapping corpse bugs. And every single one of them was the size of a human fist. A corpse bug swarm, all the color completely drained from Hu Bai's face. How the hell are there so many of them? Beside him, Fatty had finally gotten a clear look at what the black wind actually was. He couldn't help but scream out, "What the hell are you staring at? Start shooting, goddammit!" Blind Chen yelled in absolute desperation. He shined his flashlight wildly at the swarm, screaming at the Shiion men who were literally frozen in terror. Hearing his scream, the men finally snapped out of it. They frantically scrambled to grab the guns they had dropped in fear, and without thinking twice, they just started firing wildly into the air. "There's no way we can kill them all. There's just too damn many of them." Shirley Young shrieked in terror as she kept firing her pistol, backing away as fast as she could. She was right, this absolutely wasn't gonna work. Hu Bai shot a desperate glance at Fatty, who was laying down the heaviest, most aggressive firepower of them all. But it was no use. The massive swarm had already locked onto them and was dive-bombing straight for their faces. Gritting his teeth in frustration, Hu Bai just completely stopped firing. He sprinted toward Fatty as fast as he could. He was agile, but when he crouched behind Fatty to grab his weapons, he still ended up taking a couple of nasty bites. He yelled out, "Fatty, cover me. I'm getting a grenade. When I make an opening, everyone run for your lives." While talking, he rummaged through the dropped backpack and whipped out a hand grenade. However, astonishingly, these scarabs seemed to understand human speech. The swarm, which was originally scattered in the air and relentlessly attacking everyone, suddenly shifted their targets and swarmed right at Hu Bai. Fatty growled, "Damn it. Watch out, don't pull the pin yet. They're coming right for you. Run, now." A single scarab might be weak, but a swarm of this size was an absolute nightmare. Hu Bai snapped his head back, throwing himself into a roll. He barely dodged the massive, surging wave of bugs, tumbling right into Blind Chen and his men. Several Shiion brothers quickly circled up, shielding him behind them. Using the heavy cover the Shiion men provided, Hu Bai scrambled to his feet. Just as he was about to ready his gun again, Blind Chen suddenly grabbed his wrist. "Using this will be way more effective than a gun." As he spoke, a small wrist crossbow appeared from his sleeve. With a simple press on the side of the weapon, he triggered some sort of mechanism. The crossbow instantly detached, and he pressed it into Hu Bai's hands. Then, he pulled out a small quiver, holding several arrows with specially treated tips. "These are fire starter arrows we prepared beforehand. They ignite the moment they catch the wind. I'm completely blind, so let's not waste the shots. You're young, you take the lead." Saying that, he shoved the quiver straight into Hu Bai's hands. Hu Bai didn't hesitate. In a flash, he strapped on the hidden sleeve crossbow. "Cover the boy," pushed toward the center of the swarm. Following Blind Chen's booming command, the Shiion brothers immediately marched forward. They cleared a path for Hu Bai. A massive wave of relief washed over him. Thank God Blind Chen and his men had tagged along, otherwise, they'd be in deep trouble. Swoosh, an arrow shot out, catching fire the second it tore through the air. Just as it closed in on the swarm of scarabs. Boom, the swarm broke formation, flying frantically in all directions. The flames spread wildly, jumping from one bug to another. In mere seconds, a whole section of the swarm was ablaze. Pressing the advantage, Hu Bai fired bolt after bolt, lighting up more and more of the deadly bugs. The air was filled with the endless, piercing shrieks of the burning scarabs. Unable to withstand the scorching heat, some began diving straight into the water. But lurking beneath the water were giant toads, the very food source for Huo's immortal bug. System alert. Host's tomb guarding beast, scarab count, -1. Killer's faction, Mojin faction, detected. Staring at the system prompts flashing relentlessly before your eyes, your expression turned ice cold. Although you hadn't lost even half of your swarm yet, your fury was boiling over. With a single thought, you issued a cold, mental command. All units, fall back for now. Little Green, you're up. Group up with the swarm and launch a second wave. In a split second, the relentless wave of scarabs simultaneously turned around. The massive, pitch-black cloud of bugs flew back down the tunnel they had come from. In just a moment, they vanished completely. Fatty, who had been knocked flat on his rear by the swarm, panted heavily as he rubbed his butt and pulled himself up. He looked totally stunned. Damn, Comrade Lao Hu, that was badass. Look at that firepower, we actually scared them off. Why did they just leave? Hu Bai knew exactly how many bugs he had hit. Besides, this swarm was highly organized. Once they caught fire, they purposely threw themselves into the water. To stop the fire from spreading, they definitely didn't retreat because they thought they were losing. Sure, that blaze looked spectacular just now, but the swarm was colossal. He had burned a fifth of them, at most. Blind Chen twitched his ears, his face still grim and pale. Who cares? Let's just get the hell out of here. It's not that simple, Blind Chen interrupted, something else is coming. We can't stay here. We didn't even provoke the master of this tomb. I haven't touched a single piece of treasure. Why the hell are we taking this beating? Whoever's buried here has one hell of a temper. Fatty grumbled, clearly annoyed, but he was already stepping toward the exit. Just shut up and, before Hu Bai could finish, a colossal white python slithered right into their line of sight. The closest one to it was a Shiion brother. In one swift strike, the beast snapped him up in its jaws and whipped him high into the air. A massive splash echoed as he hit the water. The rest of them froze in sheer terror. They watched helplessly as the man crashed down, sinking beneath the water before he could even let out a scream. He had been flung at least 30 or 40 meters high. Hitting the water from that height was like smashing into solid concrete. There was no way he survived that. The massive white python slowly turned its head. Its cold, golden eyes locked onto the terrified group. The scarabs that had just retreated began swarming back, glaring fiercely at the survivors like hungry wolves. Run, Hu Bai forced the word out of his dry throat. Fatty was the first to bolt for the exit. However, a few of the Shiion men, watching their brother die so brutally right in front of them, suddenly couldn't move. Their legs turned to lead. Blind Chen had been dragged a few steps away by Hu Bai. But seeing his men paralyzed, he whipped his head around, his face twisted in panic. Run, damn it, get out of here. What the hell are you waiting for? You'll die, Chief, you guys go. S brothers will stay back and buy you some time. Hurry, get outside and blow the tunnel. It's the only way you'll survive. As he said those words, that Shiion warrior didn't even look back. His silhouette was absolutely resolute. We can't just leave you. I was the one who brought you guys here. Before he could even finish his sentence, the white phosphorus python lunged at them once again. Supporting Blind Chen, Hu Bai had absolutely no time to hesitate. He could only violently drag the man outward. Chief, don't forget you promised to take care of my wife and kids. Just go. Fading further and further away, Blind Chen listened as those final words slowly dissolved into the tunnel. Tears began to spill from his hollow, eyeless sockets. But right now, there was simply no other way. He aggressively shoved a pack of explosives into Hu Bai's hands, his voice frantic. There's no time left. Hurry up, blow the tunnel to pieces. You could see the agonizing struggle in his face, but if they didn't detonate it right now, no one was going to make it out alive. He desperately slammed the explosive pack against the wall. Just as he was about to yank the fuse, boom, a deafening roar, the incoming wall suddenly completely blew apart. Everyone frantically running for their lives lost their footing and violently crashed to the ground. As they scrambled to look up again, a massive 8-winged centipede reared up on its hind legs. It coldly snapped its massive, terrifying mandibles. Roar, hearing that deep, echoing screech, Blind Chen became completely unhinged. He stumbled backward again and again. Hu Bai was paralyzed with sheer terror, forced to helplessly stare up at this monstrous behemoth. Woo, woo. Suddenly, a piercing, high-pitched giggle echoed through the air, bouncing endlessly off the dark tunnel walls. Fatty, who was sprinting at the very front, quickly shot his head up, and instantly laid eyes on a gruesome, crimson figure that materialized right in front of him. Its head hung limp, its body floating eerily light as a feather. Even though they were standing in a massive, empty cavern, it looked as if the creature was hung by its neck by some invisible noose, dangling dead still in midair, swaying back and swinging forth. By this point, he was scared completely out of his mind, unable to even squeeze a single, coherent word from his throat. The human-skinned ghost let out another ear-piercing shriek of laughter and began frantically fluttering in every direction. In a flash, they were viciously trapped from 3 different sides. A suffocating wave of utter despair and dead silence washed over everyone. Shirley Yang was violently shaking from head to toe. She shrank back against Hu Bai, forcing out her words one agonizing syllable at a time from deep within her throat. Old Hu, look up at that 8-winged centipede. Is there something sitting on top of it? Following the direction of her trembling finger, Hu Bai simply couldn't believe his own eyes. His voice quivered with absolute shock. That's I don't even know. What the hell is that thing? That's a person. I'm absolutely sure of it. There is actually a person sitting right on top of that monster. The very last surviving Shiion warrior let out a blood-curdling scream, driven straight to the edge of utter madness. Hu Bai and the others could clearly see it was a human, tall, slender, and standing perfectly straight. Sitting cross-legged up there, with a distinct nose, eyes, and fully intact limbs. If that wasn't a living human, what the hell else could it be? But a person like that clearly had absolutely no business being in a hellhole like this. Showing up on the head of a giant 8-winged centipede? Don't tell me that creepy old King Shiion actually managed to become an immortal god? Hu Bai wildly muttered to himself. But before he could even process the thought, the demonic centipede violently slashed its two massive, scythe-like claws, forcefully scattering everyone in all directions. Blind Chen took the absolute worst hit, smashed brutally against the tunnel wall, violently coughing up a massive mouthful of fresh blood. He painfully forced his head up, desperately listening as heavy footsteps marched closer and closer toward him. The mysterious figure stepped right up to him, looking down with the overwhelming arrogance of an ancient emperor. With a single, ruthless motion, he violently snatched him by the throat, hoisting him completely off the ground. Chen Yulu, he whispered in a low, deadly, and icy tone. If you want someone to blame, blame yourself for digging up far too many graves. Chen Yulu was the absolute most experienced tomb raider out of them all. Even completely blind, there was always a damn good chance he had some deadly trick up his sleeve. The figure wasn't about to give him the chance. Blind Chen violently thrashed and struggled a couple of times, but there was absolutely no breaking free. Deep down in his heart, a cold realization struck: his fate was already sealed. In his final dying moments, an overwhelming wave of crushing regret washed over him. He never, ever should have come to this cursed tomb of King Shiion just for the sake of those fallen Shiion brothers. Wait a damn minute, those Shiion brothers from back then, they died because of the giant centipede. And just a moment ago, that girl, Shirley Yang, that little girl said this monster was a terrifying 8-winged centipede. In a horrifying flash of realization, Blind Chen finally figured it all out. But it was too late. Crack, the mysterious figure applied just a tiny fraction of brutal force. Blind Chen's spine viciously snapped in half. His arms instantly went completely limp. His lifeless body weakly swayed a couple of times before being carelessly tossed aside like garbage. Having finally made a kill, the mysterious figure's mood visibly improved just a bit. A glowing system prompt suddenly popped up right before his eyes. Congratulations to the host for successfully eliminating the chief of Ling, Chen Yulu. You have successfully unlocked the skill, Night Vision. Congratulations to the host for successfully eliminating the chief of Ling, Chen Yulu. You have obtained the exclusive reward, the Little Divine Blade. With a totally deadpan, emotionless expression, he closed the system interface. He slowly turned his head, locking his cold gaze onto the violently trembling Shirley Yang. By this point, she was far too utterly terrified to even shed a single tear, though her eyes were already burning red. She was shivering uncontrollably, looking so incredibly fragile and helpless. Her lightweight, tactical clothing had been thoroughly soaked during that intense fight with those nasty corpse crabs just a moment ago. The beautiful curves of her slender figure were faintly showing through the wet fabric. Under any normal circumstances, he might have actually shown a little mercy to a gorgeous beauty like her. But right now, since he had already started this bloody massacre, he absolutely wasn't going to show any weakness. Hu Bai and Fatty had been violently smashed over to the exact same side of the cavern, separated from Shirley Yang by a massive gap of at least a few hundred meters. They were forced to helplessly watch from afar as this deadly figure slowly stalked right toward her. Their hearts burned with agonizing anxiety, but they were completely powerless to do a single damn thing. Bang! A deafening explosion ripped through the air. A massive chunk of the ancient tomb wall on the far side violently exploded open, blasting razor-sharp shards of stone everywhere into the air. We, the Emperor, have finally returned. Following that terrifying, echoing voice, countless disgusting crimson threads of raw flesh violently burst forth. The thickest among them were like gigantic, pulsating pythons, horrifyingly stretching right across the shattered tomb walls. And all of these grotesque, fleshy tendrils ultimately fused right in the dead center, twisting into something that looked like a rotting coffin entirely engulfed by massive tree roots. Hu Bai and the others recognized it the very second they laid eyes on it. It was that terrifying giant tree tumor python they had encountered back in the High Priest's tomb. The sickening red flesh tendrils violently lashed and thrashed, rapidly spreading and infecting every inch of the cavern walls. And in just a fraction of a second, red veins spread out all around. That coffin was oozing waves of a sickening and bizarrely evil aura. The voice coming from inside was hoarse and dreadful. Haha, did you actually think you could kill me off completely back there? You're too naive, boy. Today, I will take your life. You sneered. You just knew this sneaky old bastard King Shiion wouldn't kick the bucket so easily. Earlier you had the nerve to chew me out for taking your grave goods, calling me unreasonable, and now look at you, hijacking the body of your own high priest of the Python corpse blood banyan. You even butcher your own subordinates. Looks like you're way more vicious than I am. You glanced around. The bloody flesh threads were still expanding, and the trunk of the blood banyan had already snapped. Who knows how far he had dragged himself. He barely managed to stay alive, and now he traveled thousands of miles just to mess with you. This King Shiion was quite persistent, to say the least. What does that matter? Stop your senseless babbling. You are but a lowly wandering spirit. How dare you disturb my slumber? Destroy my flesh, steal my precious orb, and ruin my path to immortality? Today, you must die. As his voice fell, the red flesh threads behind the crystal coffin twisted together like a massive beast, lunging violently toward you. But you weren't fazed at all. Your expression didn't even shift. The way you looked at the crystal coffin was like looking at a completely harmless rock. King Shiion was way too overconfident. Given the strength of this blood banyan, at best, it was only on par with the six-winged centipede before its evolution. Compared to the current white phosphorus python and the eight-winged heavenly centipede, it wasn't even in the same league. You didn't say a word, just gave a silent glance. The white phosphorus python immediately understood your command. Though its body was massive, its movements were incredibly agile. In the blink of an eye, before anyone could even process how it moved, it blocked your front. With a light flick of its snow-white tail, all the attacking bloody flesh threads were twisted into a tangled mess. With a violent yank, those flesh threads snapped instantly. Blood immediately erupted and sprayed all over the place. But not a single drop stained the snow-white scales of the python. An agonizing scream from King Shiion echoed from the crystal coffin. He was absolutely furious. Gritting his teeth, he spat out every word, "You little beast. How dare you act so arrogantly in my presence?" Amidst the roar that echoed through the tomb, the white phosphorus python and the eight-winged heavenly centipede swarmed forward, clashing fiercely with the python corpse blood banyan. You narrowed your eyes, looking toward the blood banyan with great interest, simply enjoying the spectacle of this battle. He completely failed to notice that, right behind him, Shiion, who had been pretending to be unconscious, had been watching him for quite a while. This is a creature whose behavior is almost exactly like a human's, she thought. Even though she didn't know his origins. And he clearly seemed to have some sort of connection with those two monsters that just showed up, along with that swarm of corpse beetles. But no matter what, since he was human, there had to be a moment when he dropped his guard. Shiion secretly calculated in her mind. Right now, in the midst of this chaotic battle, it was the absolute best time for her to slip away quietly. Thump, the very next second, a severed piece of the blood banyan was suddenly flung right next to you. You shifted slightly, dodging to the side. At that exact moment, Shiion happened to fall right into his blind spot. She sprang up in a flash, getting ready to run off to the side without making a single sound. However, just as she got on her feet, "Did I say you could leave?" Following the voice, she looked up. A fiercely intimidating face appeared right in front of her, staring coldly down at her. When did he even move? How did he suddenly appear right in front of her? Shiion's heart practically leapt out of her chest in terror. Seeing that her escape had failed, Shiion quickly stepped back, pulled out her handgun, and unleashed a wild barrage of bullets. Bang, bang, bang. Facing the gunfire, you just casually raised your hand and dusted off your clothes. Clink, clank. Several bullets simply slipped right off his fingertips, not even grazing his clothes. Shiion's eyes widened in sheer disbelief. Catching bullets, with his bare hands? Is he even human? But she had no time to be shocked. She frantically pulled out her other weapons. Bang, bang, bang. She tried every single gun in her backpack, even busting out a submachine gun in the end. But against you, it was completely useless. Click, clack. She pulled the trigger a couple of times in vain. Now, she had completely emptied her very last clip of bullets. Standing perfectly still this whole time, letting her use you as a live target, you finally took a step forward again, closing in on her. As Shiion kept backing away, she stealthily reached for the last weapon on her body, a close combat military knife. Although the knife wasn't as easy to use as a gun, she still had the confidence to slit this guy's throat in one clean strike. Yes, she still had that much confidence. There was no other choice. She just had to put her life on the line and fight. Adopting a do-or-die stance, Shirley Yang fainted to the left. It was a fake out. Seeing your gaze shift along with her figure, she seized the perfect opportunity. Did a beautiful somersault, leapt into the air, and thrust the gleaming dagger straight toward your throat. However, it was as if you had eyes on the back of your head. Without even turning around, you just reached out your hand and grabbed Shirley Yang right by the throat. It's true. The prettier the woman, the more vicious her heart. You glanced at the bullet casings scattered all over the floor, the shiny knife in her hand, and that beautiful face now completely ridden with absolute despair. The power gap was just too massive. There was absolutely no way to win. A wave of utter despair washed over Shirley Yang's heart. Even using her heaviest firepower, she still couldn't do a single thing to the man standing before her. She closed her eyes. The eyes you used to look at her were pitch black, completely devoid of any emotion. Die. Special character detected. The last descendant of the Ban Shan lineage, Shirley Yang. Do you wish to refine her into a corpse puppet? Cost. 10,000 points. At that exact moment, not too far away, two lurking figures suddenly stopped in their tracks. It was Hu Bai and his partner. Having the exact same thought as Shirley Yang, they knew taking advantage of the chaos was the best time to escape. Originally, Peng Si had planned to just bolt out of there, but Hu Bai's temper was just too damn stubborn. He insisted on coming to save Shirley Yang, so they fumbled their way over here. However, just a moment ago, they had barely caught sight of Shirley Yang's back and were just about to call out to her, when they saw it. That figure with pitch black hair and dark clothes, the one sitting on that giant beast earlier, was closing in on her, step by step. The man leaned down, locked his hand around Shirley Yang's throat, and hoisted her right off the ground. That son of a bitch monster. What the hell is he doing? Seeing this, Hu Bai's blood boiled. He hefted his rifle, ready to charge in and fight to the death. But Fatty grabbed him hard, dragging him backward by sheer force down the path they had just come from. As he pulled, Fatty kept frantically muttering, "Lao Hu, snap out of it. We can't save her. This monster. It's completely different from anything we've faced before. It's not even on the same damn level. If we go over there, we're just throwing our lives away. As long as we stay alive, we still have a chance." Hu Bai gritted his teeth, his eyes bulging with sheer rage. But Fatty refused to let go, leaving him with no choice but to spit out a string of curses. As he was dragged away, entirely against his will. Meanwhile, on your end, the system displayed a prompt to refine Shirley Yang into an undead thrall. You only hesitated for 2 seconds. Yes, the interface shattered, transforming into a burst of glowing mist that instantly engulfed Shirley Yang. Instantly, her struggles ceased. The absolute terror in her eyes faded into an eerie calmness, before finally settling into dead, empty silence. The glowing mist swirled around her for about 10 seconds before completely sinking into her body. Refinement, successful. In a flash, life seemed to return to her previously dead eyes, glimmering with a strange new light. The very moment she was reborn, a faint, captivating smile graced her lips. She looked absolutely breathtaking, her gaze crystal clear. "Master." She breathed out, her voice melting with a sweet, bone-deep devotion. You loosened your grip just a bit, lowering her back to the ground. Shirley Yang seamlessly dropped to one knee, bowing her head in absolute, reverent submission. "Thank you, Master, for granting me this new life. It is my greatest honor." You slowly looked the woman up and down. The way she gazed back at you now was overflowing with nothing but pure tenderness and utter worship. There wasn't a single trace of that fierce, deadly woman who had just tried to kill you a moment ago. Your voice was ice cold as you spoke. "You are my thrall now. You are no longer human. Do you not resent me for that?" A flicker of genuine confusion crossed Shirley's face, though her tone remained incredibly soft. "It was you who gave me this new life, Master. You granted me the gift of immortality, freeing me from the endless suffering of being human. Why would I ever resent you?" Right on cue, a system notification popped up. Thrall is 100% loyal to the host. Host may use her without any concern. A wave of satisfaction washed over you. You casually raised a hand, and she immediately stood up. At that moment, a massive two-winged beast was still lingering nearby. Noticing that you wanted to sit, it quickly slithered over, offering its own body as a comfortable cushion for you. Shirley Yang was equally eager to serve. She knelt right beside you, gently massaging your legs. Having a gorgeous woman like her waiting on you hand and foot, completely bowing to your every whim. Well, to say you weren't enjoying this would be a total lie. Propping your chin up with one hand, you pulled up the system interface. You took the night vision skill you had just been rewarded, and spent 10,000 dark energy points to unlock it. As the purchase screen shattered into specks of light and merged into your eyes, you felt a brilliant flash bloom right in front of you. Suddenly, everything around you lit up. The flowing dark water, the rugged tomb walls, and even the mountain god's altar far off in the distance. You could see all of it with crystal clarity. It was as bright as broad daylight. For a split second, you felt a strange sense of surrealism. Having been trapped down in this dark tomb for so long, it had been ages since you'd seen the world looking so incredibly sharp and bright. Feeling a sudden surge of excitement, you casually retrieved your other reward, the little divine blade. A beautifully crafted dagger instantly materialized in your hand. You effortlessly twirled it between your fingers, the blade spinning so fast it was nothing but a dazzling blur. Shiion, who was still gently massaging your legs, watched you with eyes practically brimming with even deeper awe and devotion. She had no idea what you had just done, but seeing the arrogant smirk pulling at the corner of your lips, and noticing the sharp new glint in your eyes, she knew you had just grown even stronger. You were definitely in a fantastic mood. This little divine blade truly lived up to its reputation as Chen Yulu's prized weapon back in the day. Paired with your new night vision, it felt incredibly lethal in your grip. It was just a shame. With a casual flick of your wrist, you tossed the dagger at a nearby boulder. Whack! Half the blade instantly buried itself into the solid rock, slicing through it like hot butter. You just frowned. If you had struck that rock with your own bare hands, the entire tomb wall would have been blasted into rubble. To be honest, this tiny blade was pretty much utterly useless to you. Would you like to sell the special item, Little Divine Blade? You will receive 20,000 dark energy points. Your heart leapt with a pleasant surprise. It was actually worth that much? Without missing a beat, you hit confirm. Looking at the extra 20,000 points in your account, you figured this must be the hidden premium of special items. Speaking of special items, if you were talking about special items carried by those pathetic intruders, your mind immediately jumped to Hu Bai's 16-character Yin Yang Feng Shui secret art. You glanced down at the completely submissive Shirley Yang. A dark plan was already forming in your mind. Suddenly, a blood-curdling shriek echoed from King Shiion, who had mutated into the massive blood banyan tree. Congratulations, host. Tomb Guardian Beast, the White Phosphorus Python, has successfully triggered its skill, White Phosphorus Fire, for the first time. Critical damage dealt. No, you watched as the massive python spewed a torrent of blinding white flames from its jaws, setting ablaze a grotesque, fleshy vine that was just as thick as the python itself. The fire raged wildly, spreading at an absolutely terrifying speed. In mere seconds, the blazing white flames tore right down that bloody, fleshy vine, burning all the way to the crystal coffin resting at its core. You see, enemies like this, the ones forced to fight from a fixed position, all share one massive, fatal flaw. The most crucial parts of their bodies are actually their most vulnerable weak points. Just a moment ago, to give himself an edge in combat, the Blood Banyan King Shiion had rooted himself firmly to the ground. But now, with the deadly flames practically licking at his face, the only way he could frantically struggle away was by ripping apart his very own flesh. After sacrificing nearly half of his bloody, fleshy vines, he desperately tried to plunge himself into the dark water. But the White Phosphorus Python wasn't about to give him the chance. Teaming up with the 8-winged beast, they completely blocked off his escape route. Their two massive tails slammed into him simultaneously, smashing him violently into the cavern wall. But King Shiion still refused to give up, desperately trying to haul away the crystal coffin in the center. But as the flames consumed him, his movements grew slower and slower. The White Phosphorus Python seemed to be playing with him, continuously spewing fire just to torture him. No, to think we would perish in a place like this. We refuse to accept this. Our grand empire is not yet complete. Stop the fire. Somebody, help me. For a moment, the empty tomb echoed with his agonizing screams and desperate pleas for mercy. The white phosphorus flames lit up the entire cave, yet you merely sat there in silence, doing nothing more than narrowing your eyes, as if the glare of the fire was just a bit too harsh. Congratulations, your tomb-guarding beast, the White Phosphorus Python, has successfully slain the Python Corpse Blood Banyan. You have received an extra reward, 20,000 yin energy points. The prompt finally popped up in front of you. Meanwhile, King Shiion's screaming faded away entirely. He was gone. All that remained were a few smoldering threads of flesh, along with the charred remains of his coffin and the tree roots. With a blank expression, you accepted the rewarded yin energy. That old bastard King Shiion was never a good guy to begin with anyway. He got what he deserved. Congratulations, a creature in your faction has slain a key figure. New skill, GU Sorcery, has been unlocked. You raised an eyebrow. Quality, medium, allows you to manipulate various GU insects, control humans and other creatures. The sheer variety of GU insects isn't what makes them terrifying. The truly terrifying part is the one pulling the strings. Hey, GU insects aren't the scariest part? The system is being a little too modest here. King Shiion was a real piece of work. With his arrogant, pompous attitude, an ordinary person would have been killed 10,000 times over. But because he mastered Jiyu sorcery, he had a pretty smooth run as a tyrant while he was alive. And even after death, he managed to turn his tomb into a deadly death trap. That's all thanks to his Jiyu sorcery. Looking closer, you noticed a bunch of sub-skills listed under Jiyu sorcery. Things like cultivating tongue Jiyu and corpse pythons were all included in the package. Now we're talking. You were extremely satisfied. According to the description of this Jiyu sorcery, aside from using them to attack, you could also create even more tomb-guarding beasts and defense mechanisms. This was going to save you a massive amount of yin energy. I guess old King Shiion delivering these skills right to your doorstep was a good deed after all. Suddenly, a bone-chilling presence swept through the air. You lifted your head and scanned your surroundings. Not far away, countless shadowy black hands flickered in the gloom. It was a massive impenetrable darkness, glaringly obvious to your night vision, and it was creeping right toward you. The corpse cave. It's finally here. You took another look around. At this point, pretty much everyone who needed to die was already dead. King Shiion had been burned to absolute ashes. Blind Chen had been crushed to death. And those few guys from the Ling faction were already taken out by the 8-winged centipede before the big fight even started. The only ones left were Hu Bai and his buddy, who ran like hell and disappeared off to who knows where. It was a bit of a pity, honestly. After all, you had just checked the system store earlier. The 16-character Yin Yang Feng Shui Secret Art, Feng Shui chapter was a premium item worth 500,000 points. As the saying goes, a man is innocent, but his wealth is his ruin. Not to mention, Hu Bai probably had other valuable loot on him. He was basically a walking goldmine, but it wasn't a huge problem. You lowered your head slightly, looking at Shirley Yang standing in front of you. Feeling your gaze, she looked up, her eyes brimming with absolute reverence, and gave a soft, beautiful smile. You gently stroked Shirley Yang's hair, and pulled up the system interface. Shirley Yang had now become a corpse puppet, which naturally meant you could upgrade her. At this point, she was essentially a living corpse. Aside from having a slightly cold and eerie aura, she looked no different from a normal human. Just to be on the safe side, you decided to tweak her physical attributes a bit more. You boosted her strength to about 3 times that of an average human. That way, even if Hu Bai and Fatty teamed up against her, she could easily wipe the floor with them. Speed increased, strength increased. Once the upgrades were finished, you looked back down at Shirley Yang. She seemed to sense the immense power surging through her, staring at her own hands in utter disbelief. When she looked back up at you, her voice trembled with absolute joy. "Master, thank you for this incredible gift." You nodded in satisfaction, gently patting her head, and murmured softly, "Go. Track down Hu Bai and bring me that 16-character Yin Yang Feng Shui secret art, along with whatever else he's carrying." Shirley Yang immediately dropped to one knee, bowing her head in total submission. As you watched her agile figure sprint away, the horrors of the corpse cave couldn't even touch the hem of her clothes. You felt pretty damn pleased with yourself. With a dramatic sweep of your sleeve, you called out, "All right, let's roll, boys. We're heading back to base."